All right. So today I'm going to be on TikTok and YouTube. We're going to be debating Christian ethics are better for society than secular ethics. And that'll be a prompt for everyone that joins here. It says I'm live on YouTube, but I don't see it anywhere. Oh, there it is. What's up, Hunt? How are you? Excuse me. The guest box is open if anybody wants to join. If not, I'm going to get into some of the reasons why I think that Christian ethics are better for society than secular ethics. That's good to hear, Hunt. And yeah, I almost didn't stream tonight, but I was like, I got to do it. I said I was going to do it, so I got to do it. But I can't find my chat on the YouTube side. Oh, there it is. Oh, that's right in the way, huh? Move this over here. Cool. Boom. All right, now the link is everywhere. And you can join either on StreamYard. Oh, okay, sweet Lou.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing all right. I think I got a little echo here.
An echo?
Yeah,
Huh,
I can hear myself like at the same volume.
that's not good. 1 second. All right, how about now?
Perfect. Thank you.
Cool.
So I just want to ask, when you say Christian ethics, what do you mean by Christian ethics?
Yeah, so Christian ethics is it's multifaceted, right? It's like a virtue ethic and a deontology. But I would just say for the purposes of this prompt, like the prescriptions based on a Christian worldview.
And what are the tenets of that worldview?
Some of the tenets would be like having a focus on the nuclear family, for example.
Can you talk to me about in the Old and New Testament where it identifies the nuclear family as a value to live by?
I could, but why would I need to?
Because we're talking about Christianity, right? And Christianity bring forth that concept as a benefit to society. So if we're talking about Christianity, I mean, we would have to see how Christianity produces that value, right? How it shows us that it's good through the text of Christianity, right? Because the teachings of Christianity are what inform your thought.
Yeah, that's fine, but we can just see the effects of Christian ethics.
So when I ask you what the tenets of Christian ethics are that produce benefit to our society, and you tell me nuclear family, that may be a secular invention or a secular idea that was within Christian groups, but it also was in Jewish groups, right? And atheist groups and agnostic groups. So it's not so much a Christian belief system or a tenet of Christian ethics if it's born out of secularism and religious observance. So that's why I asked you where it was in the text.
So if somebody gets married, right, and they say that they're getting married because based on their Christian worldview, based on their religion, right? Would that be a Christian ethic?
I would ask them, just as I asked you, where are you seeing this Christian teaching informing this Christian worldview? So can you tell me that passage maybe?
Well, rather than getting into a Bible study with you, I want to talk about the actual effects of Christian ethics versus secular ethics.
Well, the thing is, if we are going to talk about Christian ethics, we have to be able to see how the teachings inform those ethics, right? So if you're incapable of doing that,
No,
then we're just having a secular conversation.
no, we don't. We don't need to get into the tenets exactly of Christian ethics or the grounding for
Your,
them.
your background says Christian ethics are better than society,
Yeah,
but
but
better for society than secular ethics. So how can you differentiate Christian ethics from secular ethics if we're not talking about the Christian origin? Are you serious?
yeah, no, we don't need to go to the Bible to get these prescriptions. We can just look at the effects of Christianity on society. It's that simple.
Okay. Then when I ask you what the tenets are, don't give me nuclear family because that's not in
Why
the
not?
text. I know that. Well, because I know it's not in the text, right? And that's why I asked you
So
to bring it
hold
up for
on.
me.
Are interpretations of the text objective or subjective?
Great. So your interpretation of the text, perfect. So can you tell me the passage that was interpreted to
Can you answer
inform
my
the nuclear
question?
family? It's interpretive, and I'd love for you to
Okay, it's
tell me which
interpretive. Thank
passage.
you.
Great.
Is
I'd
is
love
our
I'd love for you to
our
yeah.
interpretations objective or subjective?
They're subjective.
Okay, great. So if most Christians interpret their Bible to mean that you should focus on a nuclear family, does that mean that that's a Christian ethic?
It could, but what it could also mean, hold on, wait one sec. What it could also mean is that if I believe that, you know, uh, man should marry a man because the passage talks about lying down with a boy and pedophilia, right? And that means that there should only be gay marriage. That is a Christian ethic, if that's the way I interpret it. So, as you said, it's subjective, right? So, can you tell me the derivative within the text where you are formulating that subjective thought?
Yeah, no, I would say that the shared ethical system by Christians is what counts, not what some fringe group believes.
So we're not talking about fringe groups. It was actually a
Yeah,
hypothetical. It was a
yeah.
ridiculous
Well,
hypothetical because it's yeah,
your hypothetical
it's
is a fringe
ridiculous.
group.
A fringe group.
Yeah, so just
So
because
so,
someone
so
no,
hold
no,
on. So are you telling me there's a
wait,
Christian
you
group
could
out
say
there that
this,
believes
you
that?
could say this then about any ethical system.
Dude, I know that's my point. That's why I'm asking you for the derivative, right? Because I'm trying to understand where you formulate your worldview, how you generated your interpretation. Do you understand? Do you understand what's happening here?
Yeah, and I told you I don't need to because we can just look at the effects of Christianity on society. The way that
Okay, so
Christians
all right,
actually
so let's
live
talk about
based
the.
on
Okay,
their
fair enough.
interpretation of the Bible.
Okay, so let's talk about the Crusades. Do you think that was good
No,
or bad for you?
we're not talking about the Crusades. We're
Well,
talking about if secular
but
ethics.
that's an effect on society, right?
Okay, so hold on. If an ideology goes to war, that ideology is bad.
If an ideology goes, we're not talking about war. We're talking about the Crusades. That's different.
So the Crusades weren't a war.
The Crusades were, as they suggest, a crusade to get people to convert or die. Right? Does that sound
And
like a war? Or does that
and did
sound
they
like a genocide?
participate in war? Did people fight
They did.
back?
They did participate more, but
Who were they fighting?
they also killed the Muslims.
Okay. And you think the Muslims
So, but
just
again,
laid there and let them slaughter them?
I'm sorry. Can you respond to the point that I'm actually talking about, which is the people that they said convert or die that were not participating in the war?
And what would that have to do with Christian ethics?
Well, you were talking about Christian effects on society, right? If you kill women and children because they don't want to convert, that is a negative impact on society,
Wait,
right? But again,
who's
I also don't think Christians today should be held responsible for the actions of yesteryear. But again, like I'm trying to understand how we're talking about Christian ethics if we don't know the derivative of said Christian ethics, right? If we how we tie them to
no?
Christianity.
I literally just told you the shared ethical system that we can see Christians participating in based on the data that have certain effects on the society.
Great. So what are the methods in which Christians are sharing with society that are benefiting them? And what is the quantifiable meaning numerical value,
Yeah, easy.
quantifiable data that
Yeah, the first one is very easy and obvious is the birth rate. Secularists will not reproduce themselves. Simple as that.
I'm sorry, secularists won't reproduce themselves?
Correct.
So you're telling me that secular people don't have babies?
Yeah, I am.
What about all those religious Jews that are having babies?
What about them? Are they secularists?
No, they're Jewish. They're religious.
Okay, so how does that make secular ethics better than Christian ethics? Run me that.
Well, they're not Christian,
Okay,
so it has
what's the
nothing to do with
problem?
Christian ethics. Christian ethics are better than secular ethics. So, are you saying
Yeah,
all religious ethics are better than secular ethics?
I said
Because
just
here's the thing:
Christian.
if you're talking about, yeah, great. So when I bring up Jews, it should be like should throw it off a little bit, right? Because
No,
again,
that's
that's
just a
not Christian ethics.
whataboutism.
It's not. It's
Yeah, that
they're an
has
entirely
nothing to
different
do
group.
with Christian ethics being
So
better than secular
so
ethics.
first of all, I digress. The comment that secular people don't have babies is hysterically laughable. Like
Okay,
that is
what's the replacement
embarrassingly
rate?
laughable. We're not talking about the rate. We're talking
What's
about
the
the question of
replacement rate?
whether or not they have babies. You said they don't have babies.
Yeah,
It
and what I
doesn't
meant
matter
by
what the
that
rate
was
is.
that they can't replace themselves fast enough. They don't have
Well,
enough
then
babies.
you should be more impeccable with your word and
Now, you
stop just
shouldn't be
throwing
so
out slop.
pedantic.
Um, well, then you should speak better. You should have a better
You
conversation.
you
Okay.
assume that I meant that literally no secular people have babies. Are you okay?
You said secular people don't have babies. I said secular people don't have any babies, and you said yes. You
And
confirmed it for me.
you took that as I don't believe any secular person has ever had a baby. That's actually
So,
hilarious.
so
Continuing
why would
with
you
my
say?
thought
Why would
here.
you say? Hold on. Why would you
No,
say
this is
yes?
stupid. Continuing with the thought here.
Oh,
You're
okay.
not seculars cannot reproduce at a rate that replaces themselves. Or sorry, they do not.
Um, do you? Okay. So secularists, and how do you define secularists? Are you talking about
People
almanac
without
rats?
religion.
So, what about the grocery cart Catholics that like celebrate Christmas but don't go to church? Are they secularists?
No.
Why not? They don't practice.
So, well, you do see in the data that the less you practice, the less those Christian benefits actually show up in your life. So,
Well,
I
that
mean,
makes sense. But again,
yeah, but
like,
either way, they would be defined as a secularist.
why not?
Well, it's a self-report, right?
So, so if someone checks the box that says they're a Christian, but they don't go, they've never been to church, never been to mass, never had a communion, none of that, but they celebrate Christmas, they are not secular.
Are you going to call them secular? Are you gonna
I mean,
question their
I'm really just
identity?
kind of asking how you redefine the word secular.
Secular means not affiliated with any religion.
That's interesting. One sec. Um, okay, that's interesting because people who people in a variety of religions, mainly the Abrahamic religions, if you don't practice the religion the way that it's taught in the text, or the way that it's come to be through whatever formation or evolution of religion, people deem those people secular, right? Like the state of Israel, for
No.
example. Really? Because in the state of Israel, people, say mourner's Kaddish when people die. They, have Passover, so on and so forth, but they don't pray 3 times a day, and they're considered secular. So why would that
Okay.
be?
I don't know. Do they
Like,
believe in God, or do they just
well,
say those things?
believing in God, like secularism is living a life outside of, the religious practice and tenets, right? So, like, if you are just a run of the mill person that celebrates Christmas and like checks Christian in a box, I mean, you're living a secular life. Like, if you're not adhering to the principles laid forth by
Well,
Christianity or
it
whatever religion,
actually it does completely depend, but I would agree in some sense that because we like I said earlier, we see in the data, the more religious a person is, the more beneficial they are to society.
so you said data a few times. So when you refer to the data, what is the measurement you're referring to? The numerical measurement, the quantifiable measurement?
Well, I'm just going off of research that's been done for me. I didn't do the research myself.
Yeah, I know, but clearly you've read it because you're commenting on it right now. So what is
Well,
the measurement that they took?
it depends on the study.
Well, give me one study that you've read.
You want one study?
Because you
All right, I'll
keep
pull it
saying
up.
the data. Because you keep saying the data.
I
The
mean,
data.
you really think that like this is the world you live in? You live in a world where secularists are having all the babies and not the Christians. Does that
Well, that's not
sound
what I.
does that
That's not
sound
an argument I
reasonable
made.
to you?
But listen, let's defer to the data.
No, no,
So
no, no,
tell
no.
me,
You just completely ignored that. Does that sound reasonable to you? That
dude.
atheists
I
and
ignored it because
secularists?
you ignored my question.
No,
And
I'm
and I, and
going to I'm pulling
I
up the
actually
source right
responded.
now.
Dude, you don't need to pull up the source. You're having an argument with me. You should be able to talk to me about it. Don't bring it up if you can't talk
No, I
about it,
have
right?
hundreds of research papers right in front of me.
Okay,
Why wouldn't I
and by
bring
the
them
way,
up?
I didn't avoid the question because I told you that's not what I said, right? Nor is it what I believed. Again, you were the one who confirmed
All right, so
twice
no,
that you thought the secular people didn't have babies.
I understand that we need sources for this stuff. That's fine. But you're out here doubting
You
it
don't.
as
You
if
don't
this is
though. You
some like,
don't. I'm at.
can you shut the fuck up for a second? Holy shit. When you actually engage in a debate and you pull up these sources, like what amazes me is you actually think that somehow this source doesn't exist. Like, why are you questioning
No,
it so
no,
hard?
that's not what I think. I'm asking you what it says, dude. You're
Yeah,
embarrassing
because you
yourself.
don't believe it?
Listen, you're embarrassing yourself
No, I'm
all over
trying to
your own
make a
life.
point
I'm
here.
asking you normal questions, dude. These are normal questions. You tell me
No,
to
no.
shut the fuck up because you keep running from everything
No,
I
because
ask.
you interrupt constantly.
Okay, then speak more
Yeah.
efficiently.
No, just don't like overtalk on a panel. Do you want
Over
the source or
talk.
not? Because when
I
I went to go pull
do.
up the
I
source, you
do.
said, "No, you don't have to pull it up. You should just be able to memorize it."
Dude, you just commented on not needing to sources, right?
No, I
To have this
didn't.
conversation. You did, bro.
No, I
Listen,
absolutely did not. When we were talking about data, when did I
just
ever say
now,
that?
literally, I'm talking about 32 seconds ago, before you kept bringing up data, which is why I asked you to bring up the source because you kept saying
Yeah.
data.
So what's your point?
Again, are you going to talk to me about the data that you keep referring to
Yeah.
and give me some highlights from one study? Or are you going to keep floundering like a
No,
fish out of
it's
water? Come on,
funny.
dude.
It's funny that you think that this data like is hard to find or something.
I don't. I'm asking you about it because you keep bringing it up. This is embarrassing for you. The fact that you think
Okay.
that's something to laugh about, I'm asking about what you're saying.
You can keep saying it's embarrassing for me, but that doesn't make it
It is. It
embarrassing.
is very embarrassing. And thank God for screen record. It's like the best thing ever.
Well, I'm live on YouTube. You can just go get it there.
God bless America. Baruch Hashem. All right. Now you keep bringing
All
up
right,
data.
birth rate.
Let's talk about the data you're bringing up.
Religiosity and fertility in the United States, Hayford and Morgan in 2008, right? They found that women who report that religion is very important in their everyday life have both higher fertility and higher intended fertility than those saying religion is somewhat important or not important.
Okay. So you're reiterating what I said, which is that secular people have babies and religious people have babies?
No, that Christians specifically have way higher fertility rates than atheists and seculars.
Yeah, that was never in question. You said that seculars didn't have babies, dude. You said it
No,
twice
like
on your
are
TikTok
you
and YouTube
serious right
channels.
now? And
Dead
not
ass, dude.
one person in the audience ever assumed I meant that seculars literally don't have babies at all.
Then
Because
why,
it's
when
a
I asked the
common
question, then
claim.
why, then
Stop
why, when I asked
deflecting and
that
get to the
question,
actual point
I'm
now.
not. I'm speaking
Yeah,
directly to what we're
no,
talking
you're
about.
completely deflecting.
How am I deflecting? I'm still on the same topic. You deflect when you go to something
You're
else.
being super pedantic about something that literally nobody in the audience misunderstood besides you.
Dude, you started talking about data
Yeah.
because I
So,
asked you the
and
same
what did
question
I follow this
twice,
up
and
with?
you
We
said
already talked about it.
yes. Okay, so we agree that secular people and religious people have babies. Great. We
Yeah, and
also
that,
agree. We also agree that there's a declining birth rate in America, right?
yeah.
And maybe religious people are having more babies than other people.
And so
Great,
what's the
but the
replacement rate?
concept is religious people,
Can you,
as
you don't even
per
know
your
the point I'm
study,
making because you won't shut up. What's the replacement rate? I asked this question 10 minutes ago. We could have
dude.
went right to it.
Nobody's questioning that the secular
What?
people have less babies.
Answer the
Nobody is questioning
question.
that.
Answer the
It's
question.
irrelevant because I agree
Answer the
with you on
question.
that.
All right, so
Why
you
would I
agree
answer
with
that?
me. You agree with me then that secularists are not having babies fast enough to replace themselves, but Christians are. You agree?
I agree that religious people are, as you highlighted earlier with the Jewish
Christian.
hypothetical, and Jews and
Okay.
Muslims.
But did you
Great.
not just hear my point?
Right. Did
Do
you not
you
just hear that?
agree?
Yes.
Do
Yeah. So
you
hold on.
agree? Yes or no?
Okay. I
Do
agree
you
with
agree?
you. I agree with you that secular people are having less babies. I agree with you that Christian, along with all other religious people, are having babies to make up for that replacement. So again, we're talking about Christian ethics, but all that we're highlighting is religious norms within religious
Is
groups.
it a Christian ethic to have children?
I don't know. Is it?
Yeah, okay. Don't play dumb. Anyway, now that we're
No,
here,
seriously,
how can
seriously, is it?
secularists shut up?
Well,
How can secularists
I'm sorry. Go fuck
actually?
yourself. What?
Okay, have a good one, man.
Пошел нахуй, сука, Kanz.
I couldn't even get the argument out. Hey, what's up, man? How are you?
Good. How are you, bro?
Good. Are you
Yeah.
secularist?
No, no, no. I'm Catholic. I'm Christian. But I
Okay.
wanted to comment on that. What just happened? Yeah, I was down in the comments. I didn't want to request up because I didn't want to necessarily 2v1 that guy, but um, that was extremely bad faith. It was kind of difficult to watch.
Yeah.
He said he literally thought when you said secularists aren't having babies that you meant not one singular secularist has any babies.
Yeah, he just wants to argue for argument's sake at that point.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I
It's always a
like
good time.
yeah, I don't even really understand the motive there, but hey, all power to him.
Yeah. No, this is a good this is a good topic.
Yeah,
Um,
I've got tons of like I said, I have hundreds of studies here. Like all
yeah.
the data is readily easily available. Nobody actually would even question that secularists have more children, but he literally like made me go through all of that just to say that he would grant the point, that he even agrees to it, and
hmm
then still, even after that point, won't let me run the argument.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
That's
But
crazy.
while we wait for another guy, I don't mind if you hang out.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
if you're on, let me see if somebody came. No. Yeah, if you're on YouTube, you can get on through Stream Yard. I put the link in the comments there.
So I take it that you're not Catholic.
So right, I used to be Protestant. I was Protestant for about 10 years, and
Yeah.
now I'm inquiring into Orthodoxy.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
How long you been Catholic for?
My whole life. Although, I mean,
Gotcha.
well, I have been Catholic my whole life technically, but I within the last 2 years or so really got back in touch with my faith in a serious way. So after
That's
my
good to
grandma
hear.
passed away when I was 18, I never like rejected the faith or anything. I never turned away. I just sort of stopped going to mass and stopped participating. But about 2 years ago, I started again, and it's been great.
Gotcha. Nice. That's good to hear, man.
Yeah.
So I wanted to see. Yeah. Religiously unaffiliated is at 1.8, and Christian in America is at 2.2. It gets way worse when you look at it worldwide. Richie,
Now the
$5.
thing,
Thank you, brother. If anyone wants to know how bankrupt atheism is, just come read Alex's chat. Yeah, the YouTube chat's a little rough right now, huh? Thank you for the support, brother. Were you saying something?
um, oh yeah, I was saying that that Christian stat of 2.2 is going to just be self-identified Christians
Yeah,
also.
yeah,
And so for like actual, this is the point you were trying to make to him, but he wouldn't stop spurging the fuck out. Is that for actual religious participating Christians like Orthodox and Catholics, and even High Church Protestants, it's going to be much higher than that.
right. Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. And so then the argument becomes if you can't even replace yourself, then how are you good for society? If you actually
Right,
rely on Christians to repopulate you.
right. And what does society even mean if it's not reproducing itself? Then there
Yeah.
is no such thing as a society.
And most people will go to like a mass migration type of answer to that, but that never ends
hmm
well either.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because the countries that they're migrating from are all more religious than
Yeah,
the secular
exactly.
country they're moving to.
That's another great point. Yeah.
It's like, oh, we're shipping millions of Catholic Latin Americans here so to have babies instead of you. Like, what have you accomplished according to your own worldview?
Exactly. Someone's trying to come up, but they can't click the link. Let's see. Might have to. Type it in. You might have to type that Lincoln Martin. Was it Martin? No, Kevin. I used to stream on TikTok often, but it's been a while.
It is my first time coming across you, but this is a good prompt. I followed you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I got someone on the YouTube side, so I'll let you down. It gets weird with the YouTube and TikTok at the same time. It like makes an echo, so I gotta drop you.
Yeah, no worries,
But
brother. It's nice
I'll
talking to you.
follow
God
you
bless.
back and talk to you soon. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, thank you, man. You too.
All right, so now I gotta do background. 1 second, Duck. Hey, Duck, what's up, man?
Hey, what's going on?
Nothing much. I'm just getting your audio to the TikTok. 1 second.
Cool. Do I need video or am I good like this?
No, you're good.
Okay, give me 1 sec. I'll be back in like 2 seconds, Alex.
Okay, sounds good. All right, as we wait for Duck. David, what was your question? I can't bring you up yet just because we're waiting for Duck, but if you want to type in your question or wait until after Duck is done, that'd be fine too.
All right, sorry, I'm back.
No worries, man. You want to talk about the prompt?
Heck yeah, dude. Heck yeah.
Sounds
Yeah.
good. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of secular ethics. Yeah. You know, so this came up on on a taco panel earlier. I think you know taco, but
Yeah.
yeah, so like it's just the way I would personally relate to like the early Hebrew faith tradition, and then even later looking at like Paul and the early church. Like I don't know that much about it, but I came up Catholic, and it was very restrictive in terms of what people can say and do and believe. And so even like to me, like even a good idea, like, you know, Jesus loved the poor and all this other stuff, like to me, that's a very small space to stay in your entire life. It's not a bad space, but it's also very small.
Okay. And how do you think that would negatively affect society?
Yeah. So I think it tells people, that the best you ever get is that there's going to be some people that passionately work at nonprofits their whole life, and like that's cool. It's like that's awesome if you're actually doing like whatever, food kitchen, clothing bank, like women's shelters, you know, men's support, whatever it is. Like that stuff's all awesome. It's really cool. But you know, at the same time, you know, a lot of forms of things that people think are charitable are either sporadic or, you know, to me they seem so distant from the actual problems, you know, people care about. And you know, this is, you know, it's not just like a US problem. This is all over, this is like all over the world. And so if you tell people like what you think about is Christ's love, you know, you get this really what I see as a very robotic and non-compassionate movement on the layer of like society, right? It's like Elon Musk's simulation doing charity.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry that you have had maybe some bad experiences with certain Christians or religious people. But I think that that's kind of anecdotal and hard to really quantify. Because I'm sure you could understand someone having the complete opposite experience and interpretation of that experience with religious people or Christians, right?
Oh, yeah, but they always do, right? And it's not like, you know, oh, these are the mysterious Illuminati talking to me or telling they're telling me or they're asking. So like you know, it's one of those things where, you know, it's always okay when the preacher buys the plane. It's always okay when, poor people, call and text the number on your screen to buy a prayer today. You know, this kind of stuff, I don't see this as a separate problem from this very narrow lens of teaching. And I think it's okay to even say that, it's not anecdotal. You can go to churches all over the US and you're expecting a person on the pulpit to tell you what to do and what to believe.
Yeah, the only thing is, I think that when we do look at those people, and not necessarily, because a lot of times, like you said, with the people that are asking for a bunch of money and buying private planes, what's that guy, Kenneth Copeland? He's had a few famous interviews that have went viral of him acting at crashing
Okay.
out, right? Have you heard of him?
The name sounds you said Copeland or something. It sounds
Yeah,
familiar.
he's massive. He's like a billionaire off of the prosperity gospel stuff. So like, but even in a situation like that, I'd say even a high number, as like 90% of the people, probably 95% or more, are not in on it, in the sense that they truly have these Christian beliefs and they've been deceived by someone who was a little bit craftier than them, right? Most of them are in some form a victim in that situation. The only reason I'm saying that is because I would still count those people amongst the statistics we see when we see that people who have more religious beliefs, who take their Christian beliefs more seriously, they
Yeah.
do a bunch of good for society, a lot more good than secularists.
Okay, and so saying that there's some people that do a lot more good sounds just really weird. It's not the fact that you conceded my point in the first place. To me, what's troubling is you see these people with $1 billion, and it's like, okay, you have all of this money. You have all of this money apparently, and now you are telling me that this is Christ, this is the gospel of Jesus Christ, and this is what you get out of it. Like that doesn't wipe off ever. To me, that
No, yeah.
skepticism, I don't know if I'm entitled to it, but
But now, would it be fair to take the experience of this one preacher who most people would actually share your exact feelings
yeah,
with? It wouldn't be fair to then say, well, this is Christian, this is the only product of Christian ethics per se.
well, yeah, you're right. But you're saying that, okay, so all church billionaires are maybe not the same type of bad church billionaires, even if they're
Right.
doing stuff of the earth, right? Like, but yeah,
Depends how
I
you
mean
got the money mostly.
yeah, how you get the money, yeah, if you're doing capitalism and you're a Christian, you're still like, I'm not this like postmodern leftist sort of hacker or whatever, but like, if you're doing this kind of capitalism when you're a Christian, I don't see how that comports to the Gospels either necessarily.
Yeah, there might be an argument there. Certain types of capitalism are not consistent with Christian ethics.
Yeah, and so why wouldn't I just, so if I was just going to be myself then, instead of like, trying to explain where I'm coming from, I can just say, well, this is a whole pile of, this is a bunch of bull crap, right? This Christian Bible, what they do is they set up a system of laws, they set up a system of control, and they've done it for the last 2,000 years. It's economic, it's social, it's everything. And so how is secular ethics better than Christian ethics? Well, because it's not Christian ethics. It's that simple. It isn't what I'm talking about.
But when the secularists take over, things get worse. When there's more secularists, things get worse for society.
I don't know how that's the case.
Well, when we look at all the data, we see, for example, that more Christians have a higher self-report of happiness, less suicide rate. So I don't know if I can say that on TikTok. Oops. And
Swishy side. Swishy side.
And there are like, I could just go off the list here, but there are a
Okay.
number of data points that we see the correlation is the more religious you are, the higher benefit you are to society. Another one was that I just brought up recently was the birth rate, right? Christians have a 2.2 all the way up to like a 2.7, depending on how how much you go to church, how much you pray and stuff. These like the Pew Research studies, whereas secularists have like a 1.8% birth rate.
Okay, so one of the problems is like if we conflate, if we look at things like birth rate and we look at like, whatever an objective or subjective measure, how, we could talk about it like an objective measure or something and saying, okay, well, this is a pretty good deal for society for people to be Christians. The part that I still can't seem to buy into is like this, this data, data about, you always get these conflicting data points about criminality or about, kind of widening these sort of economic divides. And this isn't just about someone having money and saying like, oh, they got a bigger bowl of ice cream than me. It is like, it's like saying like, well, this is really bad when you're not helping people pay their rent. And when these are good, hardworking people, or these are like normal humans who maybe want to spend a little time, a little money thinking about how to make the world a better place. And it's this entire Christian ethic that's not letting them do that.
Well, what? Not letting, I mean, even if I granted you that, I don't know there would be a good argument to say that. Actually, I'm not quite sure I understood the last part.
Yeah. What I'm saying, sorry. So what I'm talking about is, what I'm talking about is that it's a specific point. Okay. Yeah, this is a specific point here. And I don't know if this is right or wrong, but it's like, okay, so if we're going to teach people that Jesus tells young men and young women to go have lots of babies, and that is the correct get married, but that is the biological impulse and question, right? It's an impulse and a question together. And so, you go do this, but it's not only that, right? You're supposed to see yourself as being rewarded or somehow, you're this unique individual particular. And so whatever's happening to everyone else only really matters for thoughts and prayers, right? That's what like the Protestant ethic is all about.
Well, the problem
that's all of Christianity.
The problem is those same people are the ones doing a majority of the charity and volunteer work inside of society.
Okay. No. I think I already established that that's totally incomplete. That's a partial picture, that it's obvious and it's clear, and we should support the people doing true social justice in the original sense that the Catholic Church means social justice, in the sense that it's alleviating suffering. I support that all the time. And there's no good reason to not do that. But from my perspective, it's like, well, I already shared that, like, look, you're pissing into a pot here where you're telling, a billion people that appear to be out for self. That's all that's actually allowed in the church when you technically look at it. To go do more, to go do better. And if you're just not one of these social justice warriors because of where you're born or who you learned, to be nice from, then you're stuck with that same form of Christian ethics forever. You're never going to get anything different. And the proof's in the pudding there.
Well, the proof is in the pudding, but on the opposite of what you said. Because when we look at the data, the Christian ethics that we have, that the people are in practice of, result in much more generous giving and volunteering time than secularists, by like a wide margin.
That doesn't pass my sniff test. That doesn't, to me.
That's fine.
And I know you're going to go run to the data and you're going to, that doesn't make any sense to me. I think you're describing a very narrow portion of society that serves your argument.
There are meta-analysis of multiple studies.
Yeah. I mean, I think you'd have to do better than that, right? Because it's just the case that anywhere that people are arguing about being a Christian nation or Christian nationalism, it's like, this is, to me, that is the force that is driving things in the wrong direction. And there's plenty of examples of this. You know, if so, like let's just imagine there's a world where you have a local community church and you're able to create impact or something, and this is a positive force. So first, I can co-opt those studies via social capital and other means in political science. Secondly, I can still ask how do these out of control nationalist patriotic lunatics, these postmodern Christians, right? These like Kierkegaardian, existential sort of blind faith, believers and followers, how do they actually control the systems? How do they know what's happening tomorrow? They just don't.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how just saying it feels different to me is better than providing the data. But even if I granted you that, what in secular ethics prescribes charity?
Yeah, so I think you can take, so I don't really want to do like heavy philosophy, but I was talking about emotivism the other day. And I do think there's just a common sense or like a discerning sense that, look, my suffering is like other people's suffering. And because I know what that's like I can conclude that suffering is in the world. And to me, that's not hard to follow, right? It's like if I flip my lamp switch on, I know someone else can also flip the same switch and that lamp goes on. And so if I'm a being that's suffering, or I'm as a being that's suffering, I have that sort of like modality of my brain engaged or something, then to me that, what do you call it? To me, what that sort of looks like and means is that, even from a secular perspective, there's not a fence line or a gatekeeper where you can stop asking questions. And there's also not a little man telling you that, these earthly things don't matter when they in fact do.
Yeah, so that's not like a shared secular ethic, though.
Do you want to kind of explain or walk into that just at least a
Yeah,
little bit?
how many people do you think agree with that philosophy of morality?
I think a lot of people. I think a lot of people would accept that as a meta-ethical premise, right? And even if they say, I'm a, who knows, I'm deontological, or I follow utilitarian ethics. I think in like non-postmodern fascist land, most people would say, yeah, you suffer, someone else suffers the same way. I appreciate that you're saying that, and I would accept entailments of that argument for my own meta-ethical position.
So was that a yes or a no to the question?
That's a yes. I'd say that absolutely is. It's not only secular, it's also anti-theist.
So in where inside of secular ethics is this prescription?
I mean, it's common sense, right? If we're looking at secularism or anti-theism, just wondering why two humans are fundamentally different. If suffering is a fundamental thing that our bodies and our brains do, then it's in the world. And secondly, that's very easy and clear to see, as I hope your audience can appreciate. If I say, well, nowhere in this Bible do I give priority to this fact of suffering, which is the fundamental fact of morality and ethics. So to me, saying that I have to wade through, 600 pages of nonsense and folklore in order to, kind of get what I can sort of appreciate or realize or talk about by walking outside. I'm going to pick the walking outside fact first. That's completely okay for me.
Yeah, but how is all right? So you said it was common sense, and so that means everybody or most people commonly would have it. So if you have, then Christians would also be included in that category. They would already have this common sense, plus they would have a prescription from both Scripture and the Church to be more generous, right?
Yeah, or specifically thinking about suffering versus being generous. We might agree or disagree on that, because I'm former Roman Catholic. So to me, that aspect of, if someone is poor, you don't give them money because they're poor, but it is the suffering related to poverty, which pertains to social justice. So you sit alongside that suffering. That's the Roman Catholic version of it. But yeah, I don't see why people in the church have to do anything nice for other people. I don't see why you have to be nice if you're a Christian. You already have salvation. You came from, you basically spawned, you got spawn trapped in a shoebox by God. And so now that's happening.
Have you ever heard the phrase, those who have been given much give much?
I'm not aware of that.
Now, what about those who have been forgiven much forgive much?
Those that have been forgiven much forgive much. Yeah, I appreciate forgiveness as a virtue or a value.
And it's the same way with the earlier statement I made about giving. Christians look at what they've been given and the compulsion from being given so much is to be generous and give.
No, I would use the quote, same above as it is below, right? And this is maybe what's not generalizable to secularism is if you're a little hellish or a little bit of a hellion, what I wouldn't understand is that if the Bible spends so much time prescribing things that make absolutely no sense, prescribing things that you eventually have to say don't really make sense in the light of the Lord, I don't really see how you get out of this sort of slave endorsing rule set. It isn't the fact that there's some beautiful form of Christianity that peaks over. What is still peaking over, even if you want to lie or be dishonest about it, is this very heavy, not attuned sense of what the world is like. And that pertains to morality. That's why common sense is harder to see for people, because we have things that are blocking our view.
Yeah. I have two more guests up here, but if there's anything else you'd like to say, I think we've come to an impasse there. I think we've exchanged some good ideas. I appreciate you coming up.
Yeah, I'll just say this, Alex. I'm all out of love. I'm so lost without you. Do 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 do.
Thank you for the outro song. Have a good night.
I'm all out of love. We'll see, Alex.
See ya. All right. Coop was here first, so I'm gonna bring Coop up, and then Kevin, I got you right after Coop. Hold on, Coop. I gotta change something. All right, can you hear me, Coop?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. What's up, man? How are you?
I'm alright, how are you?
Doing well.
Okay, I guess, what do you mean by better?
Well, I would say that it has things that we could actually both probably agree on that are better for society. Christians who practice Christianity more have higher levels of those values.
Right. How would that make the society better?
How would that make the society better?
Opposed to like a secularist.
Yeah, so
that
for example,
upholds
one thing
humans'
would just
values.
be that we've talked about multiple times tonight is birth rate. So in order for a society to exist at all, it needs to be able to replace itself. Christians
Okay.
replace themselves at a far higher rate, and secularists aren't even at replacement level.
What do you mean by not at replacement level?
So replacement level is somewhere around 2.1 to 2.2, depending on who you ask. And they're at about 1.8 in the US, and those numbers stay the same pretty much around the world.
Are you like considering the US as a secular example?
No, I'm talking about the secularists within the US. So it doesn't do like an ecological fallacy where it takes group level data and tries to make inferences about the individual. It actually follows individuals and does individual level data.
Okay. So you're saying higher birth rates are better for society? Yeah, I would agree. Okay. mean, birth rates aren't the only thing that would. They're not like the end all be all net quality.
Right, yeah, agree. Yeah, so that point then would be for
Well,
Christians. Another thing would just
what's
be,
their Christian replacement rate?
so the overall is 2.2, but then the argument goes a little bit deeper because the more Christian you are, which means like the more times you've reported to pray, right? A lot of this stuff is self-report, but people who say they go to church more often and pray more often, they have higher fertility rates, like up to
So
2.7.
sure. So replacement meaning they are more likely to produce more offspring, but
So
not that the producing of the offspring would like cause a net positive effect to the society. That's
yeah, no,
like
it's
distinguishable from a 1.8 replacement rate.
could you repeat that last part?
Is it like distinguishable within a society like a 1.8 replacement rate to opposed to a 2.2?
Yeah, like at a 1.8, eventually you go extinct.
At a 1.8 you go extinct.
Yeah, eventually.
What do you mean eventually? Like how like
I don't know what the math is. Let's see. You have a 1.8 fertility rate. How long before extinction? Oh, that wasn't an easily Googleable answer. Let's see.
because I mean
So
from my understanding of biology.
after 5 generations, you're at 47%. And then it takes a lot longer to go extinct, up to like 50 generations. But I mean, after 10, you're at 22%, for example.
Well, this would also be like contingent upon the mortality rate within the society, right? Of the like extinction happening.
It would prolong it.
Well, no, if there's a higher mortality rate within the society, then yeah, there's going to be extinction. But if there's like a very low mortality within the 1.8 replacement rate, then extinction
No,
isn't really.
the math doesn't change in how many people. It just, instead of taking 5 generations to be at 47%, it might take 6, 7, 8, or 9.
So it takes longer to get to a certain population, not that the population would go
Right,
extinct.
exactly, because it's the same rate at which they're declining. It's just because people are living longer, it takes longer to get rid of everybody.
Sure. I mean, yeah, that's fine. I mean, I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with you taking a position that more people within a society is better, but
It's not even just the more people is better. It's the fact that, I mean, without replacement rate, you also get huge burdens on a society, right? Like taking care of elderly people. Either people have to get out of the workforce and go home to take care of elderly parents, or they have to hire, which is obviously a huge cost. So like even in the US, we kind of see this problem already, where a lot of boomers are retiring and ending up in nursing homes, and there's not as many people as there were before putting into the systems that these people rely on.
what do you mean there's not?
1 second, after this puzzle. All right. Could you repeat that? Sorry.
Like, are you saying that they're like these institutions aren't being like advocated for?
Like Social Security, for example. If there's not enough people putting in and there's too many people taking out, that system collapses.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So if you have a lower replacement rate, you have a population that is senior dense.
I mean, I feel like that wouldn't be always the case because China, for example, has a very high replacement rate and they're very senior dense as well.
China?
Yeah.
No, they don't. They have a very low replacement fertility rate.
You sure?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I guess that. Yeah,
Yeah, they had a
well,
huge
some.
problem. You remember the
Yeah,
meme?
no,
That's
I know.
reality, but
Yeah,
yeah.
that might have slipped my mind.
No, I get it.
I
No, and
forgot they did
honestly,
that. Well,
on the
what was it
opposite
prior
side,
to that though?
I don't know. That's a good question. Let's see. When was it at replacement last? Wow. In the 60s, it was at 7.5.
Yeah, see, like they were going crazy.
That's like, I'm very surprised by those numbers actually. But yeah, since
Yeah,
1990, they haven't been at replacement.
weren't they communists in the '60s as well?
Aren't they still communists?
They might be.
Yeah, the Communist China Party, the China, what do they call CCP?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, man. But other than birth rates, well, let's see if, yeah, Kevin's
Sure. I mean,
still
I
here.
guess.
I'll let you go soon. But beyond birth rates, there are like here. There's a list of. Sorry, this document's 100 pages long, so I'm just trying to find it.
I heard you bring up the religious people reporting higher personal life satisfaction,
Right, right.
and I would say my argument is because that it's a norm to be religious, so you'd be more comfortable
Yeah, that could
objectively
be it.
within this religious society or religious dominant society.
Yeah, that. I mean that's fair enough.
Um, but you're
I
not. You're
I
not like a.
honestly don't even like that stat because it's just a self-report. But the reason I put it in there is because a lot of secularists like to use that, because they think that they'll use like secular countries like Switzerland, um, and they'll say they have higher overall reporting happiness. But if you
It's
look
not
even in
happiness.
there, or what is it, life satisfaction?
It's just it's like aggregate quality of life is what they're
Gotcha.
producing more.
But it's when you actually dig into those statistics, um, if you look at the Christians in those societies, they have slightly higher reports in that category. So it's just, I would say
I
that
mean,
it's not the only thing that makes the people in a society report happiness or overall well-being, but it is correlated with higher when you separate it by countries and in a lot of those cases.
yeah, a lot of those things, a lot of those, the way they do those are like they do it region based. It's kind of hard to do it like individual,
Yeah,
like
and
micro level data.
there's some I'm just trying to find it. There's more studies that have like big analyses. So those are obviously better to use, and some of them are longitudinal, which is following individuals over a certain period of time. But I mean, with the data we do have, uh, I have like over a dozen categories here where Christianity outperforms secularism, sometimes by a small margin and a lot of times by a large margin.
So would you say that? So are you like a Christian nationalist
I would say
or are you
yes,
like a
but I'd like to
universalist?
kind of define it because a lot of people have different ideas of what a Christian nationalist is. I just see Christian nationalism personally as a movement to basically uh, put Christians in positions of power and influence in government and society.
You don't think they are?
No, I do think some are, and I think we need more.
I don't think there's ever been a time in history when Christians haven't been the predominant demographic within the government.
Within U.S. or just
Yeah,
general? Yeah, yeah. Within the U.S., I would say that that's true, but I would
I
say
mean even
that
I would say that across the world as well.
definitely not across the
Pri-
world,
pri-
depending on
prior
history
to
too.
prior to like like the spreading of Christianity into Ethiopia and Asia Minor in like 40 AD. But prior to that, I mean, after that, it's been like within Christian papal nations such as Italy or Spain, or
Well,
even
also a lot of
Rome
Muslim
after.
nations.
Yeah, sure, like with the Crusades and everything in Jerusalem. But but still, like even it's always been like some type, even like with Judaic law has always been like predominant within those regions, or it's always
Yeah,
tried to be.
I would say that we're definitely losing it in the U.S. The Christians who are in power are less religious, and the Christians in general are less religious, and there's also a lot less Christians now than there were, say, 50, 100 years ago. Well, not numbers wise, but percentage wise.
So you think that if Christians today like practice actual like Christian egalitarianism, like what Jesus taught and all that stuff, it would be overall better for society?
Yeah, I think most atheists would probably agree with that. I think they would just say
Yeah, I
that
mean,
most Christians don't, is like their argument, right?
I mean, I would say that for like any type of beliefs, it's gonna be hard to follow it to the bone, but upholding it to the best that you can, I don't think
N-
that's been present recently.
Yeah, and I think if those who aren't Christian become Christian, it will be better for society. And I think the data
Right.
represents that
Yeah.
as well.
So, um, what flavor of Christian are you? Were you like
Personally, I was a Calvinist Protestant for about 10 years,
okay?
and now I'm inquiring into Orthodoxy.
Oh, really?
Yep.
So are you in Texas?
No, Kevin, I'll bring you up in 5 minutes. Thank you for waiting. But I'm not in Texas.
Well,
I'm on the East Coast.
there's a politician in Texas that I like that's a Christian, but he's a Presbyterian.
I'm not sure. I don't think I'd know.
I think his name's like James Tallarico. Um,
Oh, he's not. He's he does claim to be Christian. You're right.
I've seen that he's received donations from like some some like Palantir person or something, like I don't know. He received a large donation from
Hmm.
some foreign aid, but
Yeah, I'm not sure,
he's
but he is
he's Christian presenting.
he's like a progressive Christian.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very progressive
Yeah.
in Texas, which is funny.
It is funny, but hey, I mean, this is kind of more to my point where there's a lot more progressive Christianity now than ever has been before, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, which I do appreciate, but I think there's been a uprising of some false Christian narratives
Yeah, I
within
mean,
the U.S.
I do think that ultimately the data points to Christian ethics being practiced in society being better for society. Especially once you get down to um like in I don't know how to say this on TikTok, PDF files. There's
Right.
actually, yeah, when you go uh secular, there's actually, I think you're twice as likely to end up doing something like that.
Well, my thing is, I don't think that like the qualities of Christian ethics are necessarily exclusive to Christianity or Christian beliefs.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that either.
Like, like I don't think there's any quality that's exclusive other than like it being identified as something in like a certain sequence. But like, you can find like don't steal, don't assault people or whatever till they unalive, don't commit adultery and all that. I feel like you can find that in a secular society anywhere.
We
But like
could, we
it's
just don't.
but the reason is because it would um there's an exclusivity problem within having like some type of uh like say all not say all be all, but dominant like system. So like that's why there's neutral institutions within the secular society, which its capacity to like
But like,
compete with like a
how would that affect Christian and secular giving on an individual level?
so right so like I said in the comments, like with blood donations, food drives, homeless shelters, soup kitchens, and all that stuff. These are like neutral institutions, which sometimes can be produced by a
Right.
church, but they are like secular,
I
secular institutions.
Yeah, I
Like,
wouldn't even if I granted that it was a secular institutions. But if you were to just say it's secular, then I would say the people donating to those institutions uh, are going to be Christians at a higher rate and more.
Christians donate more. Is what you're
Yeah,
saying?
so yeah, there's quite a few studies showing that the more religious you are, the more you donate, as well as if you are Christian, you donate at a higher rate and more consistently
Well,
uh,
if
than
you're
seculars.
if something like if you're a upholding Christian, of course you're gonna donate more. That's a part of your worldview.
Right. And the reason we don't see that in secular ethics is because uh, there's no prescription in secular ethics that says to be charitable. There are secularists who are charitable, but it's not because of some prescription from secular ethics.
Well, no, like a quality of secular ethics would be increasing happiness or well-being for like society overall.
Yeah, but that doesn't translate to give more.
But it would. I mean, give more isn't like the only way to be charitable.
Right. I mean, even if we looked at any way to be charitable, even with your time, Christians still outperform in that as well.
I mean, in what way? I mean, I would disagree with that because like you don't
Yeah, I mean, you
go,
can definitely
go
ask for a source.
I mean, it's like, can you give me an example?
An example.
Yeah,
I just know based on the studies we have that
like sure, a church would give, or like
yeah, and the only
yeah, but
reason
like
churches have money is because the Christians give it to them.
but like secular institutions also give, and
Yeah,
I'd say they
and
give more.
I don't know about that. We would have to look into, but uh the people giving to both of these types of institutions more often than not are Christians. This will be the
Giving it to
last
the
thing we can
churches,
talk
yeah,
about real quick, but I do want to finish it up with you,
yeah,
just
sure,
for
that's
time.
fine. So, what do you think? Like, are you saying like a church isn't the only like Christian institution that gives, or way a Christian
No, I'm
gives
saying
charity, or that Christians only like give more to these secular institutions than seculars do?
yes. That is true as well. And it maybe not for every single one, but let me pull up the study as well. Like for example, if there was like a secular institution to make people more secularists and they were getting donations, I wouldn't expect Christians to be donating to that. Or
Is
like
this like
Planned Parenthood, for example.
is
I
this like
wouldn't.
adjusted per capita, or is this
Well,
including
generally
the fact
secularists
that
make
most
more money.
like, but the overall majority of people are going to be Christians, so Christians are going to be the ones that give more, right?
Yeah, it's based on individual rates, not total amounts for the whole group. Oh, all right. So you want here pro-social behaviors beyond charity, right? Sorry, I just have like small notes that I forget what they even mean, so I gotta go into the study.
No, good man. I don't want to stress you.
I'll get if you follow me, I will pull up those studies and then we can either talk about it in
Yeah,
DMs or
so yeah,
have another discussion on it.
yeah. No, you're good.
Yeah, it was a pleasure
I
talking to you
appreciate
though,
the
man.
conversation.
It was a good conversation.
Yep.
Have a good night, bro.
You as well.
All right. Let's see here. I should have went through these notes better before I started this. All right, we have Kevin and Christian. Those will be the last two guests for the night. I'm getting tired. I'm gonna bring you up in a second, Kevin. I just have to change the audio back for TikTok. Cool. Hey, Kevin, what's up?
How's it going? Good. How's it going, Alex? You hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, perfect. Let me know if my audio's jacked up. I'm on some pretty cheap headphones right now. I could use some ties for some new headphones.
Well, it sounds pretty good to me, so you're
Yeah. Okay, good. My Christmas present, new headphones is coming in. But
good.
oh man, I was just listening to your conversations, and I am a Christian myself. Not
Okay.
Orthodox, not Calvinist. I'm a dirty Arminian. Low church, all that fun stuff.
Gotcha.
But I just I kind of I'm into my 30s now, so you kind of have that typical thing where you kind of grow up in the church, and then you kind of start to get on the progression of kind of owning your own kind of faith and things like that. And kind of as I've gone through that journey, I kind of question when I see conversations like these, which are not abnormal, right? You see these all over the place. You're not the only one having these conversations. It's all
Yeah.
over in Christianity, and then American Christianity, Western Christianity, and not even elsewhere besides that. And I
For
just see a
sure.
lot of generalizations, a lot of anecdotes, and I just I guess my pushback would be is, are those helpful, right? And like, for example, when we look at when I first initially jumped on, and I had to step aside for a second because I had to put in the link physically onto I had to like take a picture of it and then put it
Yeah, I
in and
gotta
all that
find a
stuff.
better
So I
way for
missed a little bit.
that.
And it just seems like in the current iteration of Christianity in America, there's a lot of that going on as far as anecdotal evidence and what I would call a lack of full context sometimes, right? So we have data, but does the data we have capture the full context of the point that we're trying to make, right? And in that, making that point, is that actually helpful towards spreading the gospel, or things like that? So it's like when I see people kind of like this is honestly what what you are debating is pretty tame by many standards of what I see people talking about. Like I see this, to give you a more extreme example, would be like homosexuality, right? I would say that homosexuality is a sin, right? I would think that you
Right.
would agree with that,
Yeah.
right? So you and I agree on that. But I personally look at how Christianity as it exists with believers that are currently on this world, we tend to hyper focus on it. And then because of that hyper focus, we then sit back and go, why is it not getting better? Why is it's like, okay, we hyper focus on some of these things, like homosexuality. That's obviously, like, I'm making like that's a very hyperbolic example that's hot in our society right now.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like I could push that out, like, to even, for example, your example with birth rates, right? So I would say that yes, data shows that Christians have higher birth rates than people who are secular. That's a fact, right? I
Yeah.
think we could agree on. But why is that? Is it because is it actually because it's just, Christianity versus secularism, or are there other factors at play, right? And so it's just, when we're making these like distinctions, we're making these debates, are we bringing the full context into play? So like, for example, I couldn't hear the last guy at all. But you were talking about like, somewhere to extinction rate. So would you say that in a secular society, we would drive ourselves to extinction?
Yeah, based on current birth rates, absolutely.
So you would think,
And it would be not a fun time going down either.
yeah, absolutely. So you would say that, like, if I snap my fingers right now, right, and everybody in the United States was secular, eventually we would drive ourselves to extinction.
Based on the data we have now, yes.
So do you think that's true then?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see a good reason as a secularist to want to have children.
So do you think there are secularists aren't having children because of they're secular.
because
So like
it's
for
much
yeah,
easier to, and I think you would understand, when you voluntarily do not commit yourself to a woman, right? You have, I got to be careful with the words I use on TikTok here, but
yeah,
you have
no unaliving talk.
free smex, where
Yes.
there are no consequences, and if you forget to use contraception or you just don't want to, you can just AB the baby, right?
Yeah.
So like these are all part of secular ethics. Most secularists agree with those things. And when you combine that, uh, there's less reason to get married, to commit yourself to one person, and less reason to actually build a family, right? Kids are obviously a great joy. I have kids myself, but it's hard. It makes life harder. You have to work more. You have more responsibility, right?
Yeah, so that's an important transition then into my point, which is that the context isn't all inclusive just to a secular versus Christianity point. It's something else, right? So, like for example, if your point that secularists, if everyone was just secular, we would drive ourselves to extinction. Then why didn't non-Christian societies drive themselves to extinction throughout human history, right? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, because they all end up relying on religious people to immigrate into their country. And even like secular societies that we would call secular societies, there were still religious people there. But it's just time. Like they're not secluded. If you secluded all secularists on an island, um, based on the data we have, they wouldn't come off that island. Eventually, they would all die.
Yeah, that's only true if you believe that the exclusive context to that is just a secular versus Christian thing, right? So, for
Well,
example, 4,000 years ago in Europe, okay, Northern Europe, you had people who were pagan or Lord knows what they were worshiping or not worshiping or whatever.
okay.
They didn't drive themselves to extinction, right? So that kind of puts a puts a knife in that point, right?
Well, no,
Like
they weren't
so
secularists.
my point is, what's that?
They weren't secularists.
I don't honestly, if we were to say, I don't think many secularists are actually really secular. They're all worshiping something, right?
Yeah,
One way or another, you
but
know.
if you
So
don't
it's
claim to believe in any god or gods or have any religious affiliation, no matter what you're doing on the inside, you would be considered secular. And when we group all those people together and we look at the data, we see that they have a below replacement rate for fertility.
so if they below replacement rate for fertility because that data is from the United States, where we are a developed country, and developed countries typically show lower birth rates because there are secular countries out in Africa or out in various parts of the third world that have extremely high birth rates. And that's because the factors that are
No, they don't.
driving the birth rates are not.
What's one
Where's the high?
secular nation with a high birth rate?
Okay, so I guess to my
I can
point
look
is
them up
that
for you if you want. You don't
that
have to
doesn't
have the data right off
exist.
the.
It doesn't. There is no 100% secular place, right? That doesn't exist. There never
Well,
will
or
be.
even just a majority of secular or any secularist society with a high birth rate.
Yeah, so I guess what I'm getting at is that this is kind of it's like a moot point, right? Like where are we getting with this? That like people are not like secular, like that we're just gonna drive ourselves to extinction,
It sounds like
you
you
know?
more so have kind of an issue with the debate itself. You're saying kind of like
Yes,
how does the
correct.
debate?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean I think
Yeah.
different people are affected in different ways. For example, like I don't do this to try to evangelize or proselytize. I do
Mhm.
this for two reasons. One, to bolster the faith of those who watch, because that's what I get when I watch other people as well. And also to show those who watch who don't agree with me that the data is not on your side. Like you have to really take a look. Like even because there's a point of being a secularist where you're very loud and you're trying to deconvert people. There's tons of people like that on TikTok, right? And then
Yeah,
there's the
social
people
media and
who just
such.
become secularists and you kind of wouldn't even really know. Like they wouldn't tell you
Correct.
necessarily. They don't care at that point. So
They're more agnostic, really,
I'm not
right?
interested in controlling what you believe. Everybody believes what they want. But if it's true that Christian ethics are better for society than secular ethics, why don't you just let us keep doing what we do, and we'll take care of society, and you can be a secularist, just don't make society worse with your worldview.
I'm gonna be honest, man. To me, that seems rather problematic.
Why you would
Like
rather
it's just
them make
it's just
society
kind of
worse?
general. It's an us versus them. It's not helpful. I don't think.
Isn't that I mean Jesus used that type of terminology as well.
What terminology?
Like wheat and chaff, like sheeps and goats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
maybe I'm not understanding, and I don't think I'm
well,
understanding your point.
I'm just saying like putting people in groups and calling them they and have a us versus them mentality isn't necessarily bad.
But it's not necessarily bad or necessarily good, right? So we have to. That's kind of my point. There's a lot more nuance to this conversation that I think we're letting on, right? And then if we're going to be devoid of that nuance, is it helpful, right? Because I don't think that societies that are not, there's plenty of non-Christian societies. So I guess wouldn't your point really be that it's completely secular societies would drive themselves to extinction, not necessarily, yours would be more religious, right? So a Muslim country in North Africa that has a birth rate that is leading the entire world, but is not at all or even remotely Christian. So that would kind of push back on, okay, well, it must be a Christian thing. Well, it's not a Christian thing.
Right.
It's because we see it in other religions, but I would argue that it's less about the religion in that case and more so about the fact that it's a developing country, and the data shows that developing countries have extremely high birth rates, and non-developed and developed countries have low birth rates,
Right, but
because
even
a lot of these people who are secular, it's not that they are not having babies because I hate God and I'm not going to have babies. It's because they can't afford to live where they are. They can't afford to feed the extra mouths. They can't. So there's other context that's involved that's pushing that. So I think it's a bit of a fallacy to just exclusively wedge it into a Christian versus secular thing.
well, but in every circumstance where we look at that data and we take people from the same areas and in the same situations, we find the same results.
What what's the situations and what's the results?
Like everywhere you go, it doesn't matter the situation. Secularists as a whole do not have enough children to replace themselves.
But it does matter the situation, because developing countries have higher birth rates than developed
Right.
countries. So
Show me
there is other context.
show me any country in which the secularists have a above replacement rate birth rate.
I don't think that exists. I think it's a developed versus non-developed country thing. It's not
No,
as so much a
I'm just
secular.
saying in general, any country where there's the group of secularists in that country have a birth rate that's higher than the replacement rate.
What's a secular country?
I
Like,
don't even
I guess
maybe
maybe okay.
Switzerland,
Let's
or
it's probably a
I don't know
Western
because they
Europe.
have
Yeah,
yeah.
Switzerland. Let's go with that. You got to go with probably a European, the very developed European country. But again, developed European country, right? It's a developed country. There's other context. So I'm not necessarily saying that what you're saying is wrong. I'm saying that there's additional nuance and context that plays into it. And then trying to shoehorn that argument into a straight secular versus Christian worldview is in itself maybe not necessarily untrue, but it's not the full truth, right?
I would say that
Would
it's
you
a
agree with that?
correlation. But when the
Okay,
correlations stack,
but then I can say I can say that yours is a correlation,
no,
right?
no, no, that's what
Like
I'm saying.
I
I'm
can do
saying
that.
this is all correlation. This doesn't mean causation. But when you notice certain patterns of behaviors amongst groups of people, you can make inferences about those groups of people, especially when the correlations stack on top of each other. And the same people who aren't having children are the same people who are doing more hedonistic activities, for example. And so you take these correlations and you can match them up and you can make inferences. It doesn't mean that correlation equals causation. It just means you can make evidence-based inferences.
But would you reject my evidence-based inference on developing countries versus non-developing countries?
No, I would say you're correct, but I would say
Okay.
even in those situations, the secularists still do not replace themselves, no matter what situation you can give me.
Okay. So what I guess I just don't understand what we gain from that, right? I don't really understand what we tell people, oh, if somebody's not able to afford to have kids or they can't have kids medically, that's a thing, obviously. And they happen to also be secular. Are they not having
I
kids
mean,
because they're
those,
secular, or are they not having kids because of other reasons?
yeah, but that's why you don't take 10 people and do a study, right? You have people like the Pew Research Center who've done studies for decades, and there's certain math where you need a certain amount of people. I don't know. I'm not in
Yeah,
statistics. I
it's,
didn't
it's a
take
sam- you have to
statistics in
have
college, but
you have to have an ample sample size. You have to have
right,
an adequate
to
sample size.
account for those things like you were saying, right? Because if you just take 10 people and 3 of them can't have kids for medical reasons, then you're not going to get good statistics.
I don't think it's three. I
Three,
don't think it's three.
I'm saying 3 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, like,
At least 3 out
it's
of
like one of
10 for the
those.
example.
Yeah, yeah. So okay, so I think with that we're good.
Yep.
And then as far
No,
as
I
the
appreciate that.
generosity thing, yeah. But anyways, yeah, it's 1 o'clock, so I have to get to work. But I appreciate you taking my
I
call,
appreciate you
unless
coming
you
on,
want to
Kevin.
discuss anything else. But maybe we'll chat some other time.
Sounds good, bro. Have a good night. Christian, what's up? How are you?
Hi, Alex. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me. Thanks. I hear I'm the last one.
Yeah, we might have one more because there's a guy who's been trying to talk to me for a while. He said he can be on in 15, but we can definitely have a conversation.
I'm sure we can. I'm sure we can. So, like Kevin, who went up just before me, I guess before we jump into some of the different, some of the different parts of the conversation, I'm sure you run up and down the different talking points as it pertains to this subject specifically. So, I assume you can sort of talk about anything. So, I kind of want to kind of harken back a little bit to some of the points that Kevin was mentioning. But my first question, I guess, would be more so to like clarify the basis. Can you still hear me, by the way?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. I guess the basis of what you're asking. So would you agree that any successful society, would require a shared moral framework?
Most likely, yeah.
Okay, and historically, the dominant one, at least in Western society broadly, has been some form of theology, and before that, different flavors of paganism, depending on where you lived.
In the U.S. or in the world?
Well, I mean, the U.S. had a different history
Yeah.
pre-colonial contact, so I guess we could just say Europe and the old world.
Yeah, I gotcha. Okay.
And if you want to take North America for example as well, you could say while not necessarily organized religion as we know it, there might have been spiritual practices that you would classify personally as a sort of religion.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned in some other conversations that it didn't necessarily matter that there was a presence or a majority even of secular people. It was more important that, for example, religious people were migrating in. So, would you classify religious people like how would you classify like a religious person? Do they have to be Christian or Muslim or Jewish, or would you say like pre-Christian pagans were religious in that sense too?
One second. I'm just telling me to turn up my mic over on YouTube. Sorry about that.
Oh no, you're fine. I hope that question made sense.
I might have to ask you to repeat it. I'm sorry. but hold on.
Sure.
My mic's quiet. That doesn't make sense. All right, hold on.
I hear you okay, but
Yeah, YouTube's different. They have a different
Mhm.
mic. How about now? Tell me on YouTube. I think it's good now. All right, so yeah, sorry. Repeat what you said. I'm sorry.
no problem. So you had mentioned in some other videos that a majority presence of secular people or a secular state didn't matter to its success as much as the presence of religious people did. So religious people migrating into a country is more important to the success of it than any secular population.
Well, I would say when I brought up migrants, it was because most atheists will go, or secularists will go back when I bring up birth rate, and they'll talk about immigration and say religious people or other people in general will immigrate, and so that's why we don't have to worry as much about the birth rate. But the way you framed it, I would say even, and not that this would be plausible, right? Otherwise, it'd probably just be Christians. But if all of these if all of these secularists in this country just became followed Christian ethics and remained secularist, then they would also see success. But as far as the migrants go, I mean, yeah, I would think that a certain because it's not just about Christianity being better for society than secular ethics, because there's also arguments to be made that Christian ethics is better than Muslim ethics or Islam ethics.
Yeah. Do you make any distinction there?
Yeah, absolutely. I like, for example, there was just a very viral debate that happened with sorry, I'm just reading chat to see. Audio is low again. All right, how about now? That's got to be better. All right. What was I saying? Basically that the viral debate, yeah, was where Andrew Wilson debated Daniel Hakikachu. And his argument for why Christianity was better than Islam for society, then sorry, I was reading chat. His argument was that Muslims are inbred, and he provided a lot of data. I think Pakistan had like a 67% chance of being born to first cousins. And he correlated that with low IQ and went from there. So like there's different reasons. I don't think necessarily that a bunch of Muslims migrating to a secular nation will make that secular nation succeed.
I see. Interesting. So your argument revolves around maybe more of a Western framework of Christian ethics and Orthodox ethics, as opposed to religious ethics as a broad idea that encompasses Islamic frameworks of morality.
Right. And like even I think Muslims have Christians beat by a decent margin as far as birth rate goes.
Yeah. Okay. So I disagree inherently with the entire foundation of your worldview. So I think this can be a decently interesting conversation, because I was curious to see if you sort of classified just religious people as a whole are what makes society grateful. Like look at Islam,
Like
look at
pluralism.
Christianity. Yeah, but now we can sort of hone in, I guess, specifically on the Christian aspect of it. I think that'll make the conversation a little bit easier to navigate.
Yeah, so why would you think then that secular ethics, what aspect of it could make it better for society than Christian ethics? I can't hear you if you're talking.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me right now?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Let me know if I go out again.
Okay.
So essentially, I think
You went out again.
oh Lord. Okay, I think it's the browser. I should be back for good this time. Okay. So I think religion as a whole, especially organized religion in Western society, like Kevin sort of echoed in your previous conversation, is sort of contingent on the otherization of different outgroups, and these things change over time. So I think a secular society like Japan or Scandinavia is very successful, right? But I'm not gonna fight you on the idea that where there's religion, there's higher birth rates. For example, my grandmother, who lived in Mexico, had many children, and she was a devout Catholic, and they lived not in the most affluent conditions, right? They were very poor. So I understand that in no matter where you go in the world, you're going to find that, right? So I'm willing to concede that at least the birth rate argument does tend to point to this idea that more religious people have more children. Where I sort of tend to deviate is the idea that's somehow an indicator of superiority. You mentioned, for example, that secular people can exist. They just shouldn't poison society with their idea of how things should be run. And I think that right there is the crux of Christianity. You can be part of our group if you just conform. If you do anything else to deviate from conformity, you will become a deviant, so to speak. And those
Yeah,
are
that's what
and
every
those,
group does.
and those kinds of deviants are exactly the kind of people that Jesus chose to be his disciples. Uh, in Palestine once upon a time, many thousands of years ago. So I think it's interesting to note, for example, that women could run the church when it first started because there was nobody
Why?
joining in
What do
Roman
you mean
times.
women could run the church?
When the very first Christian gatherings and enclaves that were held illegally during Roman times were often organized and coordinated by women. And as soon as it became state sponsored, women were immediately forced out of the church.
I would like to see the source and evidence for that, but I don't know if it's really worth going down that rabbit hole.
Well, I think
Even
I think it points to an idea that is.
oh, you cut out again.
Oh, sorry. I think
Good,
it
good
sort of
now.
points. Of course, I think it sort of points to this idea that as soon as you inject the state and the state's affairs with a religious framework, it inherently invites a superiority hierarchy where there's an outgroup being forced to conform for no reason other than they're viewed as poisonous to the homogenous like organization of society.
It's the exact same thing with secularism.
How so? Because as far as I'm aware,
Um,
there's no institution associated with secularism. There's no church of nothing. There's no church of
Yeah, when we
space.
see, like, for example, and I don't know how to say these words on TikTok, but I don't know. I don't even know if I can say it. But when people transition their genders, maybe that's the safe way to say it.
Mhm.
This is not a Christian ethic. And this is definitely more correlated with secularism than Christianity. And if you don't agree, for example, I mean, before Trump was in office, people were getting banned everywhere for all sorts of stuff like that, right? That's just socially. So like you're not in the in group if you don't agree with me on this issue, and we will ostracize you if you disagree on this issue. Same thing with the vid, right? Like when they're
But getting canceled on TikTok or on Twitter is a lot different than getting your passport revoked and kicked out of the country, or stopped at the airport because you have a Charlie Kirk meme on your phone. You know what I mean?
yeah, in the same way where people will lose the authority they have over their children, and if you are a man, you have absolutely no say in whether a woman chooses to have your child or not. For example, that's just something like where we disagree on, obviously, or probably. But you could see from our standard how it creates the same sort of in-group, out-group mentality.
I see how, bureaucracy and government as we know it is sort of the same no matter what. And whether or not you have religious zealots at the top or, secular figures at the top, you're going to sort of find the same sort of gaps in loyalty to the law and things like that. And regulatory agencies start getting underfunded, social safety nets disappear, and people start having less kids because they can afford less and less things. But you mentioned like
Well,
transitions. You mentioned
to be
transitions.
honest, real quick,
Oh,
poorer
yeah.
people usually have more kids, so it's not about not being able to afford kids that people
Well,
are having kids.
yeah, 5 minutes ago I conceded that like my very poor Mexican grandmother
Yeah.
had like 9 kids. I myself have 1, so it's not like I'm planning on having 8 more myself.
But
And it
this
has
is
that has to do
yeah.
with a lot of things. It has to do with a lot of things, right?
Yeah, like shaming socially, right? Like you're
Well, I
not
don't think anybody's being shamed for wanting to have kids or one or the other.
absolutely. Are you
When
kidding?
we
When
talk
a when
about
a
the
when a young girl in college gets pregnant, everybody tells her get rid of that thing. And if she doesn't, she's stupid.
well, anecdotal sort of stories like
Mm,
that are
that's
not
a very common
un-
story.
they're not
There are
uncommon.
even Christians who say they are pro-life, right? All over their Facebook wall, right? They're always talking about. They'll say that's the main reason they voted for Trump, and then their granddaughter goes to college and gets knocked up by a person who maybe skin color they don't like, and they go right to the abortion clinic, right?
Well, do you happen to know as well that a lot of slave masters in the deep South in early American history were also guilty of having all manner of children with people that they presumably owned and had papers for,
Yeah.
just to breed more stock to work for them and barter them off eventually. Which, if you read the Old Testament, says it's okay to do.
No, it
So,
doesn't say that.
do you happen to be aware too that there's a colonial medicine books that teach you how to make a shmushmorshin tea? They show you how to brew and concoct a remedy for women who are not in the physical, economic, or moral position to welcome a child into their lives.
Now, I just want to fact check you because you did say that the Old Testament made either a prescription or at least an allowance for you to breed your slaves.
What's that?
You said that there was in the Old Testament that there was a prescription or at least an allowance for you to breed your slaves.
No, I
Personally.
said that you could own people and do with what you wanted to, and using them as
That's not
breeding
true.
stock was not uncommon.
You can't just do what you want to your slaves based on the Old Testament.
Of course
It's
you
not
can.
true. Where does
Of
it
course
say
you can.
that?
Of course you can. Let me pull up some verses. And really quickly we can.
Yeah. You went out again. We'll do this for like 5 more minutes, and then I got
Okay.
that guy Cleve coming on, and I'll talk to him for a little bit.
It's every time I search stuff up. I was trying to pull up some verses for
Gotcha.
you, but I'd rather
Well,
touch
look,
on some of that. What's that?
we can talk about whatever you want for the last 4 minutes, but I can pull them up if you'd like to, because
Sure, if
I'm
you
pretty
want
sure
to.
I know the ones you want to talk about.
Well, I'm sure you have
Yeah.
you might have something prepped. In which case we can skip over it if you feel like you have a dialogue tree for that one.
I
You
don't have a
mentioned
dialogue tree for it, like notes wise. I have a bunch of notes on the topic we're talking about, but I know that topic well. That's why.
okay. I want to touch back on something you mentioned, which was the transitioning of people and the transitioning of children and whatnot. While we're talking about a subsect of the population that does not amount to more than 10 to 15%, including queer people of all sorts and trans people. I think it's sort of a red herring to bring them up in terms of secular versus religious arguments, because if you look at indigenous histories, the Mayan society and many other societies had words for third genders. And if you look at the fossil record, before religion, before even society began, you have evidence of people undergoing traumatic events and traumatic injuries and being healed back to good health and living an otherwise full and normal life. So in a world without civilization, you have evidence of collectivist behavior. And I think there's a lot of stuff we would agree on, just to sort of put a button on everything and put a bow on everything. I think there's a lot we would agree on. And that's where sort of like collectivist worker first politics come in. You know, everybody has to pay their rent. Everybody shits, everybody eats, everybody dies. You know, even the seculars and even the religious folks and even the trans people under your bed. So I think it's important to sort of talk about that. I mean, even if you like, I think it's important.
I
to
didn't
have,
bring it up as a talking point. I
Yeah,
just used
yeah,
it
yeah.
as an example of the in group and out group on the other
I
side.
think people need community, and wherever you can find that, God bless. This is America. But don't you think it's kind of sad how even the guy who came on before me had to be like, "Hey, by the way, brother, I'm a Christian, but also I'm a dirty Armenian," as like a qualifier to the rest of his statements. Like, "Hey,
Well,
hey,
it was a joke.
No, it's a joke, but how many times does he have to make it in these kinds of settings? Because he knows what he like. You know, he knows that inherently he's not going to be accepted into the ultimate in group. And community is important, but I think it's also important to realize that once upon a time, religion was a tool to oppress us, and that's why nobody was allowed to read.
Tool to oppress us.
Yeah, that's why nobody was allowed to read.
Where?
That's
wait,
why
wait.
that's why it purported
Which
slavery.
religion?
Christianity.
And when was it instituted as a way to rule over people?
I think all religion, no matter what society, but Christianity as the chief example here, is a institutional mechanism of enforcement where you can institute a status quo where you have a permanent outgroup to blame for your issues, and you keep taking advantage of the working poor and tell them that their neighbors are the ones to blame until they round up their neighbors and put them in camps. And it's been repeated time and time again. And
how
we've
is
done
secularism any different?
we'll take Scandinavia and Japan, for example. Japan, not even 100 years
Even if
ago,
you point
was
to one
incredibly
country-
violent.
Even if you point to one country, when they weren't Christian, but even if you point to
Of course, they were
one
secular.
country,
They were secular.
one country that
Scandinavia.
this might work with. What I'm saying is,
Norway.
it hasn't always worked. It hasn't always turned out well.
Norway, Scandinavia, Japan, and not even necessarily just highly developed countries either. But notice how
And-
those are all countries that have some sort of socialized housing, socialized healthcare, and socialized centralization of government policy and public services. When
Yeah,
people
you're
can
assuming
live,
that those are good, by the way.
yeah, because guess what? They lead to higher birth rates. In a secular society, meeting people's basic needs leads to less crime and higher birth rates. And secular societies have proved
Japan
that.
has the lowest birth rate, like pretty much in the world.
Well, they have a high work culture here as well, and globally the birth rates are declining for
Are
many
you in
reasons.
Japan?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay, because you said here. I didn't know if you were living in Japan. I would have thought that was pretty cool.
Oh no, I wish. No, but globally we're seeing declining birth rates, and that doesn't mean we're going to go extinct. I just think that people are very poor, and only certain people can have babies right now, and it's
People
very
are
much
richer
like,
than they've ever been, generally speaking.
yeah. The top 1% are doing
No.
50% of the spending in America right now.
And still, you are vastly richer than your grandparents were at your age.
Is that supposed to make me feel good? Because their land was stolen from underneath their feet, and then they were
No,
allowed to work on
you're
it for
saying
pennies.
people
They were
are
allowed to work
poor.
on it for pennies, and I should be thankful. That's the
No,
problem
no,
with
no,
organized
no.
religion. That's
You're saying
because it's
the
an
only
arm of
reason-
it's an
the only
arm of
reason-
enforcement.
The only reason I attacked that point was because you said one of the reasons people may not be having children is because they're poor. And I said people are not poor, they're generally richer. And I mean, you've already conceded at the beginning that being poor doesn't mean you have less children.
Yeah, they might have been poor, but they had a house. I don't have a house. If I had a house, I might have had a few more kids by now. That's without a doubt. I only have one.
And if you come back on, I don't know if I'll be ready for it Thursday, but I'm starting a new topic on immigration, which I've just recently studied more. So that's why I said I don't know if I'll be ready for this Thursday, but I will be doing that prompt. And I think Fair US just put out a article about how the housing crisis is directly linked to mass immigration. But I would love to have maybe that conversation with you next time.
I can't wait to hear about how the Haitian migrants are stealing your houses, and it's not your boss who won't give you a raise and your landlord raising your rent, who are all not Haitian and not immigrants. But I can't wait to read that one. Maybe I'll tune in.
Sounds good. Hey, it was very nice to meet you and talk to you, Christian.
Likewise, it's cool that you do this. Take care, man.
Take care. All right, Cleve. My bad about the wait. I can
It's
do at
okay.
least 15 minutes. It's a little late. It's
Okay,
1:30 where I am, but
Can you hear me okay?
yeah, I can hear you okay.
Okay, good. I can't see you though.
Oh no, yeah, I have the way I have it set up, I'm just using StreamYard. Like TikTok made me go directly to my camera for one more stream. And so, let me see. Yeah, I won't here. No, if I do that,
It's okay. I mean, I just
Alright.
thought there might have been a problem on my end.
no. Here, we'll do this without the audio. Now you can see me kind of. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you fine. It's just whatever's if you're trying to show an image, it's just loading.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's just me if you wanted to see me. 'Cause you said
Okay. Well, it's okay. I know what you look like.
All right, man. I just noticed my camera's all messed up, my skin complexion, but that's fine. What's up, man? I know you wanted to talk about slavery. Was the last thing I heard from you. Is that what you still want to talk about?
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to continue with the other gentleman. I forgot his name.
Joel.
Unfortunately, the connection went bad. But
Yeah.
basically, my argument was that the Bible is pro-slavery. And because it's pro-slavery, it cannot take credit for ending slavery.
Well, if something is pro-slavery, does that mean it's pro all forms of slavery?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
So you can't conceive of somebody who is pro one form of slavery and not pro another form of slavery.
No.
All right, so I'll give you an example then. You do agree that in the U.S., there are prisons who force people to do labor and use the 13th Amendment to its full use, in which it says that you can enslave someone as a punishment for crime.
Yes, I understand that,
Yeah.
the 13th Amendment.
Right. And so like up north, I don't think we have any of those. I know down south though, especially in more conservative areas, they still have those types of forced labor systems, right? So there are people, tons of people in this country, I'm sure you could see where they're okay with that, right? But they're not okay with the slavery that America had 200 years ago.
Oh, okay. I mean, the issue with that one is that loophole in the 13th Amendment, it allowed people to criminalize a certain group. So when
Yeah,
we go
I
back
agree.
to, for example, antebellum slavery, slaves or black people were already criminalized. So when slavery ended, that stereotype was still in people's minds that this is still a criminal race. So who else were they going to put in prison?
Yeah, I
Who else
agree. There
were they
definitely
going
was a
to
lot of that.
falsely accuse?
Yeah.
So this was a loophole to keep the same people that they had enslaved before, to keep them enslaved now. Instead of it being about race, well, we're just going to find a reason to accuse you of a crime, arrest you, and we're back at square one.
Yeah, I would definitely say that a lot of that happened. I think it happens a lot less, and it's more indirect now, but it definitely was directly the people building these prisons, making backdoor deals with judges, even. Really sick stuff. So I would agree there. My whole point is the Bible is pro-slavery, but when people hear that, they think of the worst, and they think of like all of the tragedy that happened in America. And I would say that is not biblical slavery by any means. There is no prescription in the Bible to take people and enslave them merely based off of their race or skin color.
Well, that's the natural descent of any slave system, right? Because if you do have a system of slavery, eventually you're going to want to enslave people that are the most vulnerable, right? You're not going to go after the strongest group. You're going to go after the weakest group. And as time goes by, that group that you've been enslaving, they become synonymous with enslavement. And that's how it became race-based, just by a natural descent and progression, like a disease that you get that gets progressively worse over time. This is the group that we can always enslave, go after. They're the cheapest on the market. They're the most vulnerable. And that's how it happens. So that's why, to me, any form of slavery eventually gets worse over time, not better.
Yeah, I mean, I would, but my whole point is there's a type of slavery that was practiced, specifically the one in ancient Israel, as the Bible describes, that is not an immoral practice of slavery. And I would say that you also would have to hold that some form of slavery is not immoral.
It is. All forms of slavery are immoral if we're talking about simply owning another human being. And so I would ask you this, if we want to, get straight to the point. The Bible, you're saying the Bible is pro-slavery overall.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah, absolutely.
okay? So it's not anti-slavery.
Well, it's anti some forms of slavery.
Which ones? Like, be specific.
For example, just enslaving your neighbor, just because that wouldn't you wouldn't get you would get actually killed if you kidnap somebody and enslaved them, who was a free person. You would also get the death penalty there. So like there's prescriptions. If a slave were to flee from a master who was cruel to them, as an Israelite, you had a duty to protect that slave and not return them to their master. That's in Exodus. So there's definitely a lot of prescriptions to regulate slavery, but it was pro-slavery, just like we all are. And the reason I say that is not just the prison systems I mentioned, but any judicial system that punishes people by locking them away as the main punishment is a form of slavery.
So I would say this. So you mentioned the Old Testament and how you could not kidnap a free man, right?
Right.
In that same chapter, it says a father can sell his daughter into slavery.
Correct.
Is that something that is good in your eyes, or is that horrible?
So it's when you say is it good, it's kind of like asking me, hey, is it good that you had to pick up 2 extra jobs because you lost all your money? It's like, no, it's not good, but it's not immoral, right? Like,
so a father could sell his daughter, and that's not registering morally for you.
well,
He could sell his daughter into
that's
slavery.
because
This is
what
the
you
rules
think, what you think that entails is not what it entails. I'm assuming because you're thinking the worst. What do you think
what else
that
could it
does?
entail? What else could selling your daughter mean?
Yeah, it doesn't mean that you're like selling her as a smeck slave.
What else could it mean? Because it says a father could sell his daughter into slavery.
Yeah, does that mean there were very, very strict rules in ancient Israel, and especially if it's a father, most likely talking about a Hebrew. If a Hebrew man sold his daughter to another Hebrew family, it was most likely a situation where there was a man there, like a son, and this would be like an early dowry.
Are you guessing, or are you saying
No, I'm saying that was the practice. No, because there are prescriptions in the Old Testament that say if you fornicate, you will receive the death penalty.
Well, I would ask you this because in the context of that chapter, wasn't it in regards to slavery? Like as you were saying that it was giving restrictions on who to sell and who you cannot sell, right? You cannot kidnap a free man and sell him into slavery. That's illegal. But you can sell your daughter into slavery. That's legal. So as you said, there were regulations.
Mhm.
Have you ever been to
But like, what do you think this daughter is doing?
have you ever been to Amsterdam? Or are you
I haven't
familiar with
been.
the country? Right.
Not all I know is it's like there's no the legalization is very popular there, right?
Right. So have you heard of the red light district?
Yeah.
Right. So would you say that that country allows for prostitution?
Yeah, just be careful with that word. We're on TikTok too. There's only
I'm
3
sorry.
people watching on TikTok, so I don't think it matters. But yeah, TikTok's weird. But go ahead.
But obviously, we'll call it the trade. Would you say
Yeah.
that they allowed for that trade?
Yeah.
Yeah. But do they allow it everywhere?
No.
Exactly. So there's areas
you're saying
where
there's
you can't
regulations.
do it, but there's areas where you can. But
Right.
overall, they allow it. So this is
Yeah.
my argument here that it is allowed, and it is
Yeah.
allowing that version of slavery that did happen in the South 150 years ago.
No.
It was the same thing.
No,
where do you
not
see
at
the
all.
difference? Where do you see the
Uh,
difference?
Well, one, they're in like you could actually, you could for American slavery, it was based purely on the color of your skin. You could not own a white slave.
It was the same thing in Israel as well.
Now you could own a Hebrew
foreign
slave.
a foreigner could not own a Hebrew. There were heavy restrictions against foreigners.
That's
owning Hebrews.
that's not true.
No, it really was.
No.
It says in
Where?
the same chapter of Leviticus, if a foreigner were to gain a Hebrew as a slave, it said do everything you can to free that person, to help out your
Okay.
brother.
So it
to
was
keep them
prescribed
from being
though.
slaves.
It was allowed, I
So-
mean.
As I was saying the other day, when it came to the enslavement of Hebrews, it was a lighter sentence. You had to help out your brother. You had to prevent it at any cost. But with foreign slaves, they could be passed down forever. They were permanent slaves. They were chattel slaves. So it's kind of like, as you said, with prison, you have some prisoners that have a lighter sentence. They're there for just a few years, and other prisoners who are in prison for life. That's what foreigners got. They got the harsh chattel slavery in Israel. Hebrews got the lighter version. And then later on, God stops that. There's a chapter, I forget where it is, but God tells them not even to own their own people as slaves.
But it wasn't based off of a skin color or
But
a race.
that's-
You could
that's a minor
you could
detail.
literally become if you were black, you couldn't become white, right? Unless you're Michael
But that's a
Jackson.
minor detail. That's a
But
minor detail.
no, it's
Like,
not because it
like-
was tied to the land. You could become a
does-
Hebrew.
So if skin color disappears, does that mean slavery disappears overall?
No,
Can you
not at
still
all.
have slaves? Exactly. So you can still have the system. So this is why.
Yeah, but all right, look,
skin
what
color-
if I did this? If I enacted a system of slavery that said everybody under 30 is a slave. That would not be biblical slavery, right?
But here's the thing.
Hold on,
Is
answer the
that
question,
a
please.
requirement for it?
In American slavery, yes.
Skin color is
In American
age.
slavery, yes.
Was
so
it,
American
is it a
slavery,
requirement? Can you have it without it?
you can have slavery without
And that's the whole,
that.
that's where
Yeah,
they're still aligned.
but I'm just
That's where
I'm
they're still
saying
aligned.
that it's not. That's why American slavery is not biblical slavery.
But look at the places where they were in alignment. In both cases, biblically and in America, you could own a slave for life. You could beat them. You could sell them. You could buy them.
All right, now hold on. Here's the thing.
You saw one.
You can do
difference,
all
but
of
you're
those
ignoring
things
all
to
the other ways
prisoners.
they overlap.
Yeah, but you're assuming that all these things are bad. And I'm saying like it's like if you saw someone in prison, right? And they were trying to hurt guards and they were trying to escape, and the guards used physical force and hurt him pretty bad to get him back into his cell and calm him down. You wouldn't say that's a good thing that happened, right? It's sad. This dude freaked out. He did what he wasn't supposed to do, and he had to get hurt in order to be put back in his place, right? And to have the safety of others. But you would also say that's not immoral what they did.
But here's the thing: we're talking about just slavery as it is, not enslaving people who did something wrong. Like in the context of Israel, they were just buying and selling whoever as slaves. It wasn't in regards to whether these people did something wrong or bad. It's
Well, how did
just,
these people end
these
up in
people over here
slavery?
in this land, we can just do it.
Yeah, so
And
how
here's the
did
thing,
they
what does
end
that
up?
have to
Hold
do
on,
with-
wait. How did they end up in slavery?
How did they?
Well,
There's no
a lot of
context.
times it was in gruesome matters, right? Like they were like a neighboring country takes over a country, they take slaves, and especially not the ancient Israel ones, but especially the other surrounding nations did not treat these people well. There was no prescriptions not to have sex with these slaves in these other countries. So then they would sell these slaves. If you were to buy them in ancient Israel, they would get treated much better, right? So regardless of how this person is in slavery, they're going to be in slavery either way by the people who enslaved them. If you buy
Can you
them
explain?
and put them into a better system, how is that immoral?
I don't believe it was a better system, but can you explain the curse
How?
of Canaan?
Why not?
Can you explain the curse of Canaan and the Gibeonite deception?
No, I'm not a scholar in that stuff. I couldn't explain it to you. I know the mark of Cain. It's when he killed Abel, right? And God cursed him.
So the curse of Canaan is where Noah curses his son,
Oh.
his grandson Canaan,
Gotcha.
to slavery.
I thought you said
And
Cain.
it is later fulfilled in the book of Joshua through the Gibeonite deception. There is
Mm-hmm.
no area where these people did something wrong, but they're fulfilling this
Yeah, no.
curse by Noah.
But that's not
to
a
enslave
prescription. That's not a moral prescription by God. That's
But
God
it was
announcing a judgment.
But it was
This is
biblical.
going to happen to you.
Right, but it was biblical.
But
It
but
was
that's like
carried
saying when he talked to the Israelites and he said that they were going after other gods, and because of that he was going to send another country to come and attack them. Right? That doesn't mean that this other country coming to attack them is doing something moral. It's God telling them the future. This is going to happen because of your disobedience. This is what happens. These are the consequences.
But there was no God didn't.
It's not a moral
intervene.
prescription. It's
For-
not
for
a law of
example-
Moses.
Well, as you
No,
said, you're
God
not familiar
caused
with the
it.
curse. You're not familiar with the curse, so you don't know
Well,
the full details. But the curse of Canaan is this, and I'll just be quick with it. The curse of Canaan is Noah cursing his grandson to slavery. That is the curse. That is a sort of prophecy.
Yep.
It is later carried
Yes,
out
exactly.
and fulfilled. It is later carried out
Yeah.
and fulfilled in the book
Mhm.
of Joshua.
I'll give you a
And guess
perfect
what
example.
Joshua says? Guess what Joshua says? These people will be our slaves for life, for eternity. That's not them avoiding slavery. That's them fulfilling the promise and then keeping a
And?
group of people enslaved forever. And then if you're saying that there's a moral component, well, why enslave them forever for something their ancestors did? Why punish
No,
the
that's all right.
descendants
Look,
forever for what the ancestors did? That makes no sense.
under the Christian worldview, do Christians believe that the death of Jesus was a prophecy? That was
Do they
fulfilled.
believe it?
Yeah,
His death was a promise?
a prophecy. Yeah, that it was prophesied
Prophecy?
that a Messiah would come and die.
According to the Christian worldview.
Yeah. Okay. Does that mean that the people who fulfilled those prophecies, namely the Romans, who killed Jesus, or the Jews who basically sentenced him, were they all doing things that were morally prescribed by God?
If it's all in his will,
No.
I mean, at
So
any time, because
that's yeah.
for example, there's a story where, as I said before, there's Hebrews enslaving other Hebrews through indentured servitude. God steps in and stops that. Just as in the same way with the Exodus story, God comes in and stops that enslavement.
Is God
there's no
obligated
reason he
to do
can't
that?
Stop with the situation with the Gibeonites. He could stop that too.
Is he
He's
obligated
able
to?
to step in. He's able to step in to help the people of Israel when they're enslaved. But then when it comes to anyone else, suddenly we don't know what to do.
Is he
Do you not see a
obligated to?
contradiction?
Yeah, no, I don't. I definitely don't see a logical contradiction.
Right?
But if
Imagine
you're
you
saying
have
it's
two children.
inconsistent,
You have two children. One you help, one you decide not to help.
Yeah,
Could you have helped both? If you can help one, you can help the other.
but is God obligated to?
He's not, but then he can't say we
All
can't
right,
judge.
so then it's
He can't say
disanalogous.
he can't have us look at both situations and not see the contradiction. If you can
Well,
help
it's not
one
a
child,
contradiction. Stop using
yes,
that word.
yes, it is. Because
No,
if you're
then
saying
show
you're,
the P and not P.
if you're saying that you're a father, you have two children, you help one and you don't help the other, wouldn't the world judge you like say, hey, how come you only help one child but not the other?
Yeah, what you're talking about is inconsistency, not contradiction. I'm just trying to help you out.
Fine, then
Yeah.
even if you want it to be inconsistent, there's an inconsistency there, right? He can help the people of Israel, but not the Canaanites.
Right.
That's
So now
inconsistent. And now we have a problem.
now take the same example and throw in two children who are the worst children you could imagine.
Okay.
All right. And then the father helps one and not the other. Does it change at all?
If they're both being bad,
Yeah.
if they're both equally bad, well, yeah, it's the same situation.
Why?
If they're both equally bad, it
Are
is
they-
equally bad. Because if
You're-
he's helping, if both children are bad, but he's helping one to do better, he should also help the other one as well.
No. It will help to do better in what way? They're both awful.
Well, whatever way. Well, why help one and not the other?
Why not?
Wouldn't that be a unfair God?
I wouldn't think so. Why is he obligated to help us?
Oh, well, then if he's not obligated to help us, then why does he ask us to pray to him?
Well,
For example,
he does
has
so out
both
of
children,
goodness.
You're saying that he has two children, they're both bad. He expects both of them to love him, but he's only going to help one. Why should the other stay around if he's not going to help?
What do you mean?
Why should the other stay around if he's not going to help?
Why?
Like, 'cause according to what
Because
you're
he's
saying is that
obligated to.
You're saying that God
Because
is
the
helping
child
some
is
people.
obligated.
You're saying that God is helping some people, but not others. Why should those other people stay in worship?
One
He
second.
has to be fair.
He doesn't. What is this fairness?
The same definition as yours, the universal
Right, but
definition.
like, why would we? Like, where does this come from? That
shouldn't
God
we
is
expect a
obligated
loving
to
God
help
to be
us.
fair? But shouldn't we expect a loving God to be fair? Like,
Well, I don't-
according to you, did Jesus die for some people or all of us?
He died for all of us.
All right, then. So that's the standard right there.
But there are some people
that
who
standard has to be
grow
applied
up,
everywhere.
who
then.
grow up in a church, and there are other people who grow up never hearing the word church. You would say that's unfair, right? I would say God is not obligated to help all of us.
But then he sends his son to die for everyone. Right? So he sees the obligation there, and the Bible says he's the same as he was yesterday, today, and tomorrow. I mean, he flooded the world equally, right?
Now, I do got to go soon because it's getting late, but I wanted to bring it back to the fact that your world, you're saying that all slavery is bad, therefore biblical slavery is bad. But you're inconsistent. You're inconsistent with that because you also believe slavery is good.
Where did I say it was good?
Well, you didn't say it, but it would entail that you believe some form of slavery is good. For example, do you believe that people should be punished for their crimes, correct?
If they commit a crime, yeah.
Right. And then you also believe that even if it's not forced labor, a prison system that locks somebody up and economically benefits off of them being there, limits their movement, limits their freedom, that this is a form of slavery.
Sure.
Okay. So it's okay to enslave criminals, but it's not
Okay,
okay to
we'll go
enslave
with-
anybody else.
We'll go with that. Is that the slavery that the Bible had, just enslaving criminals?
No.
Because
But
you're saying that
that's, yeah, now I'm asking for the symmetry breaker.
well, because what you're saying is that there is a version of slavery that's okay, enslaving
Yep.
criminals. Is that what they were doing biblically?
Well,
Were they
no,
just
that's what you
criminals?
say. That's what you say is okay, but I'm asking why limit it to that? Why is it okay to enslave a criminal, but not okay for someone to voluntarily go into slavery, or
Well, if
for
they're
you
a
to
danger
purchase
to
a
people-
slave from another country?
If they're a danger to people, we're just trying to limit that danger. That's a different situation. If they're just a danger to people, For innocent people, for people who haven't doing anything, who aren't doing anything, why would you enslave them? Why
Well,
would
all
you
right.
punish them?
So would you say it's okay if they voluntarily went into slavery to pay off debts?
If that's if it's voluntary, then it's not slavery.
No, like you know people did that, right?
But then it's not slavery. It's not slavery if they
No.
volunteered.
But you're
One of the
you're
poor
in
things
the
about
slave
slavery is that it has to
class.
be involuntary. It has to be
No,
involuntary.
no.
Yes, it does. That's exactly what it has to be.
All
It
right,
has to be against
check
your
this
will.
out. Check this out. I'm a slave master. Don't clip that. I have one slave who I went out. I kidnapped him when he was a baby. All he knows is my house, right? And as far as he knows, I own him. There's nothing he can do. He's never going to be free, right? And he does all of my gardening work, right? Then I go and I meet a 22-year-old person, right? And they're in debt, and their debt is $10,000, and their debts to the state, and the state's going to put them in like an old school prison where you don't get food unless your mom comes and gives it to you. So he's scared. He comes to me. He says, "I'll work for you for 7 years, or make it be better. I'll work for you for the rest of my life. Just don't let me go into this prison where I'll die, and just pay this $10,000 for me." I take that. He has the same exact rights and does the same exact work as this other person. Are they not both slaves?
No,
They're not slaves?
no,
Both of
because
them?
one you just said one you kidnapped, one chose. One chose.
Okay.
Right?
Then
For-
the
for
people that you're
example-
pointing to in the Hebrew are actually not slaves in the Bible. Majority of
where
them.
was that the case?
Well,
Show
one
me
in
the situation.
one
Show me a
people
situation
sold
where somebody
themselves.
sold themselves into slavery.
that happened all the time, and it was a prescription
What
in the
verse?
law of Moses.
What verse?
Well, we can look up
And
the
again,
verses.
this-
I do have to go.
This
soon,
would
but-
apply. The situation you're talking about applies to Hebrew slaves. It doesn't apply to foreign slaves. Foreign
No,
slaves
it-
are just taken against their will.
No, says who?
The Bible.
No, it doesn't. They
Bought and
went.
sold.
Some of them maybe, but there was a slave trade, and people entered the slave trade. This is my point. They entered the slave trade voluntarily. So
Where
if
do
somebody
you see
entered,
they entered it voluntarily, the Hebrews did.
some
not
people
the
did.
foreigners.
Not just in the Bible. Everywhere.
The foreigners
That's
did
how
not
the
enter
slave trade
voluntarily.
worked. That's how the slave trade worked, generally speaking.
The foreigners did not enter voluntarily. If they did,
Yes,
it was
they
very
did.
rare. What verse are you referring to?
When you don't have enough to eat and you can't feed your family, it's not about a Bible verse. This is generally how slavery worked in the ancient world.
In
A lot
which
of people
situation-
were
what-
forced into slavery, and other people voluntarily went into slavery. But you're saying those people aren't actually slaves.
Name that verse where somebody
It
goes
it's-
into
doesn't
slavery
have to
because
be
they
a
couldn't feed
verse.
their family. Where does that verse
It-
come up?
no,
That's
what I'm
something
telling
that-
you.
That's something that Christians just made up.
No,
It's not. There's no. Where's the verse in the Old Testament that says that's the reason why?
It's beyond the point, is what I'm saying.
No, it's not.
Yes,
You have to
do you
find-
agree this
you
is
have to
generally
find
how the
verse.
slave trade worked in the ancient world?
You're guessing that. You're speculating. but
No,
that's
not
a
at
verse.
all.
You're not pulling that from a verse.
Okay, it doesn't have to be a verse if I'm not talking about Israel. You understand
It
that, right?
has to be. Because
No, I'm not talking about Israel.
Adding to it. You're just
No,
adding
no,
to the Bible.
I'm
That's
literally
what-
not even talking about Israel. You're saying
but that-
in the
but that is what we were
ancient
talking
world, no one ever voluntarily entered the slave trade to pay off a debt.
In general, if you're saying that, in general, are you saying if ever did it happen? Probably,
Yeah.
if ever.
Okay.
In
So
the
you're
history of the
saying
world,
those
there's probably
people
some
aren't
people that
slaves.
did. But again, I wouldn't call that slavery if they chose to do it voluntarily.
Yeah, I
And of
disagree
course,
completely.
If
but
you have to, if you're choosing between dying of starvation and being a slave, okay, then being a slave sounds better. But no
Right.
one looks to be a slave. No one looks for it.
right,
no
and
one wants
no one looks to be poor either, right? But it
Exactly.
happens.
People try to avoid that.
It doesn't mean that being poor is immoral.
But would it be wrong if somebody tried to profit off of poverty?
In what way?
But would you find that would you be comfortable with that? Like people trying to profit off of poverty.
We literally do it every
sickness,
single day. We all
Yeah, like
participate in it.
by keeping people in poverty, right? I'm saying that this
No,
is
it-
what
yeah.
the Old Testament did. It created a system off of something evil, which was slavery.
And so you're just saying that we all profit off of other poor people being poor, so
No, no,
therefore
I'm
we're
giving
all
that
evil.
as an example. I'm giving that as an example.
I'll
That
give it
doesn't
to you
mean
if you then say we're all evil.
no.
All
No,
right,
we're
then
not
you
all
can't have
evil.
it.
Have
You're-
what are you
The
trying to
device
have
you're
exactly?
working, the device you're talking to me on right now, if there wasn't somebody who had really cheap labor, you wouldn't own that.
You don't know that.
Oh, I
But
do
maybe
know that.
somewhere there is.
And not you specifically, but a majority of people, right? We're not rich. I don't think you're rich. You could be, but
What
I don't know
you're
why you would
doing
be
is
talking to me if you were
speculating.
rich.
What you're doing is speculating and going beyond the boundaries of the Bible. I want to stick within
No, I'm
the
I'm
boundaries of
saying
the
your
Bible.
point isn't logical that you were
If you're
making.
saying that there's general evil in the world, yes. General bad people, yes. There's some people who had to do
Okay.
things that they normally wouldn't have done to survive. Yes, they've done that.
So you
But what we're
profiting,
talking about is
you
the
profiting,
Bible being pro-slavery,
Yeah.
and that it was chattel
Yeah.
slavery
it is pro-slavery, and so are you.
and chattel slavery. I'm not pro-slavery at all.
We already went through this.
No, I'm
Yeah, you
not.
can enslave criminals. You're okay with that. That's slavery.
People who've done something wrong, and the thing
Yeah.
is, you don't even have to enslave them. You could just put them in prison.
That's
You
slavery.
don't have to enslave them.
Prison is slavery.
If you want it to be, if you want to change the definitions of it to
No.
make it fit, but the
No,
slavery that
tell
we were
me
talking
tell me what
the slavery
slavery
that we
is.
were
The
talking
definition of
about
slavery.
was the definition that we were talking about was enslaving innocent people who haven't done anything. That's
No,
the
that's
version
not.
that the Bible.
I already showed you why that wasn't.
You gave me,
wrong.
you keep giving me the version outside the Bible. Like, okay, enslaving criminals is fine, but that's not what the Bible was doing. The Bible wasn't just enslaving criminals. They weren't doing that. They were just taking people from neighboring countries and saying, hey, we're going to enslave you. We're going to conquer you. That's what was happening. That's what the whole curse
in
of Eden was
in
about.
certain
That's what the
circumstances,
Midianite
yes.
deception was about.
Now you still haven't told me the symmetry breaker, and I do have to cut it off in 5 minutes because it's about to be 2 a.m. here. But
Well,
you
what's
haven't
the
told me the symmetry breaker between enslaving a criminal and enslaving somebody who's in the or buying a slave in another country.
If they haven't done anything wrong, it's very different
Yeah, why?
because they haven't done anything wrong.
Oh, yeah, but you're just repeating yourself now.
I'm giving you the reason. You're just not accepting
Why is
it.
no? I'm asking you why it's wrong to enslave someone who hasn't done anything wrong, and you're just saying it's wrong to do that. I'm asking you why.
Well, my point wasn't whether it was moral or not. It was just that the Bible was pro-slavery. It was chattel
Okay.
slavery, and they were not enslaving criminals. They were just
They were.
enslaving anybody.
They were enslaving criminals.
They weren't. They were enslaving anybody. They weren't just restricting it to people that committed
Well,
crimes.
they had
It was just
capital
neighboring
punishment.
countries. They were enslaving.
It
neighboring
wasn't
countries.
just. Yeah, now this is something completely different. Them
That's what I've
going.
been saying, though.
Well, no, you were talking about buying people from other nations. That's different. There's a difference between Hebrew slavery, buying foreign slaves, and then going and conquering a nation. Do you think it's ever okay to conquer a nation?
To conquer a nation that hasn't done anything, that's wrong. If they haven't done
why?
anything to you, that's wrong.
Why?
Because they haven't done anything to you.
So?
That's my reasoning.
All right, so there's no, it's just what Cleve says. Whatever Cleve says is what is moral.
No, I'm just saying that if they haven't done anything to you, there's no reason to go in there and enslave them.
Yeah, but the reason is we want their stuff.
So, but that would make you the villain in that case.
Why?
That's how villainy works.
No, see, you're just saying, and I'm all due respect, all you're saying is it's wrong because I say it's wrong.
Well, what makes it wrong then? What makes it okay?
Exactly. If there's nothing that makes it wrong or okay, then it's a moot point.
But I wasn't arguing whether this was moral or not. I was arguing that this is what they did. I'm not
Yeah,
arguing
nobody's saying that they didn't do it.
but that's been my argument. My argument is that the Bible is pro-slavery. They carried it out, and they did it to other nations. They could even sell their daughters if they wanted to. That was my argument. I never argued whether it was moral or not.
Okay. Well, I mean, they did all of that.
So you agree with it. Therefore, it is pro-slavery. The Bible cannot be anti-slavery then.
Well, no, just because, again, this is the distinction. just because it is pro-slavery in one aspect doesn't mean it is pro-slavery in all aspects.
It is.
Oh,
That's exactly what it is.
no, I've already told you that there are forms of slavery that were not prescribed and were not allowed based on the law of Moses.
Okay, give me your strongest anti-slavery verse in the Bible. The strongest. Well, we can end
You
it.
can't. I mean, I don't know if this is the strongest, but the strongest off the top of my head. And again, I can look up the exact verse, but it's you cannot kidnap and enslave a man, or you will be put to death.
And here's the problem with that. Kidnapping is different from slavery. And then later on in that chapter,
No, but
a
the
father
kidnapping
can sell
is
his daughter.
okay. So that's a form of slavery if I kidnap you and enslave you, correct?
It just says you cannot kidnap.
No,
doesn't
it
even
also
make it
says
say-
enslave.
Be specific in that verse.
Let me pull it up. And this is the last thing I can do because I gotta go to bed. My keyboard's sticky because I spilled cranberry juice on it.
Just be
You can't-
specific in the wording of that verse. Because it says,
Yeah. Exodus 21:16. Let me get the surrounding verses too. Anyone who kidnaps someone is to be put to death, whether the victim has been sold or is still in the kidnapper's possession. What do you sell a man for?
okay, so let's say that is a deterrent to slavery. In that same chapter, later, a father can sell his daughter. So if both
whole
concepts about, well, let me finish.
Yeah.
If both concepts involve selling, in other words, you can't kidnap a free man and sell him into slavery. But then later on, it gives you a loophole where you can sell your daughter into slavery. So it's still allowing it.
No,
And this is what I was saying
the
before,
whole
that
point.
in some ways there's restrictions, but then ultimately there's an allowance here. Here's what we can allow it. Here's what we can allow to happen. For example, if you have a wife and she says, hey, just don't cheat on me Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, but every other day you could cheat on me. Is she committing adultery or not?
Yes, she's committing adultery.
So
But
overall, she's committing adultery.
But now, what if I told you that the Bible prescribed that you could cheat on your wife 4 days out of the week, right? Would you say the Bible is pro-adultery?
Yes.
Yeah,
you're allowing
agreed.
for cheating, yeah.
Right. Now, would you then say that the Bible cannot be anti-adultery?
It can't,
Why not?
because as you said, it's allowing for adultery. So it
Right,
can't
but
be
but you can't do it on Sundays.
fine. They've given you one restriction, but
Yeah.
overall, you would say it was pro-adultery. That would be the overall concept
in
still.
some aspect, but not in all. So you can't
But then
use this argument to say that the Bible condoned or that Christian ethics prescribes the American slave trade.
But here's why. What happens when you compare your situation with another religion that doesn't allow adultery at all? By comparison, the Bible's pro-adultery, even if it has some restrictions.
And exactly my point. So by comparison, the Bible, if you're talking about American trade, slave trade, is anti-slavery.
No, it's not.
Yes, you just allowed for the comparison. When you make the comparison between biblical slavery and the American trade of slavery, it's completely different.
It was the same because both allowed for slavery.
No, it's not the same. No, then that would be you saying that if the Bible, I froze. We're good. If the Bible prescribed adultery or allowed for adultery 4 days out of the week, then comparing it to a religion that doesn't, you can't say that other religion is anti-adultery.
If the other religion doesn't allow for adultery, is not anti-adultery?
Yeah,
How does that make sense?
by comparison.
How we're comparing two religions. One allows
Yeah.
for adultery, the other one doesn't. And you're saying the one that
No,
doesn't
no, one
is
one
not
allows for it on
anti-slavery?
certain days.
No,
Yeah,
there's
that's
one
that's
that
the
allows for
symmetry breaker.
adultery. There's one
'Cause
that allows for adultery and one that doesn't. That's the
yeah,
situation. Those two religions are different. You're comparing biblical
sorry.
slavery, antebellum
All right.
slavery.
The
They're
one
still
that
both
doesn't
slavery.
allows it 1 day a week.
It's still adultery.
All right. So which one is anti-adultery in this situation?
The one that doesn't allow it at all is anti-adultery.
No. If
Because
it
doesn't
allowed it
allow
on
it at
one
all.
day, if it allowed it
Huh?
on 1 day of the week.
If it's 1 day a week or 1 minute, it's pro adultery.
How? So it cannot be anti-adultery in any way.
It can't be because it allows for adultery.
But it does. But if you did it on Saturday, they'd kill you. Is that
That's
anti-adultery?
That's fine. But there's a day
That's
where they
pro.
do allow
That's
it.
a pro-adultery act.
But there's a day where they allow it.
Okay, so on that day
There's
that
still an
they're
allowance.
pro-adultery for 1 day a week. Biblical slavery is pro-biblical slavery, not pro-American slavery.
Which
That's
were
the whole
same
point.
things. The
weren't
American
the same
slavery
things,
got
bro.
their ideas from the Bible.
All
How
right,
do
so
you
that makes
explain-
it the
how do you
same
explain
thing.
The Negro slave Bible. How do you explain the slave
Hold on.
Bible?
If I'm a philosopher and I create an entire new paradigm, but I built it off of the back of Immanuel Kant, is it a new philosophy or is it the same philosophy as Immanuel Kant?
It'll be based on it though. It was,
But it's not the same, right?
It will be the same. It'll be minor differences.
Minor?
It will be minor.
This happens all the
differences.
time in philosophy.
The only one difference that we have, the only one major difference that you're saying is race-based, which is not even a difference because they had the same thing in ancient Israel. They had it that Hebrew slaves were treated differently from foreign slaves, and then eventually they abolished enslavement of Hebrew people, and it was just foreign people. So it was the same thing.
When did
My
they
argument from the beginning was
abolish
that
the enslavement of Hebrew people?
they did.
When? Where?
There's a story, I forget the chapter, where God gets mad at Hebrews for owning other Hebrews and punishes them for it. That is definitely in the Bible. That he basically says you can't enslave
That doesn't
your
mean
own
that
brother.
that you couldn't take a Hebrew slave.
That what else would it mean if God
Well,
punishes them?
we'd have to get into the exact story. But what story is it? Because I want to read it.
I forget the exact chapter, but it's pretty much Hebrews were enslaving other Hebrews under indentured servitude. God told them no, they didn't want to stop. God punishes them for continuing to enslave their brothers, and that was pretty much the story.
Gotcha. All right. Well, wait. Are you talking about you're not talking about Joseph being sold into slavery, right?
Not Joseph.
All right. Well, I'd love to continue this conversation or even talk about something else next time, but I am gonna go now. It's past 2 a.m. I didn't think I was gonna be on this long. But very nice talking to you, Cleve, and I'll talk to you soon.
Take care, brother.
Have a good night. All right, I wasn't really paying too much attention to chat, so I apologize. But let's see, let's pull up chat here. ALC, what's up, dude? Toilet, how you doing, man? A lot of new faces. Yato King, I feel like I've seen you before. Swooze Booze, what's up, Walk? Andrew Burke, how you doing, man? Sarah Moore, Protestant. Protestant what? Nub, what's up, Nub? Is that Nub? Nub's Revenge? Oh, we got some. Let me end the live. TikTok. Right. Oh, now you guys can't see anything, right? I don't know. I'm just looking at the chat. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate all of you. Hit that like and subscribe button on the way out if you liked what you saw. Have a good night. Later.